Ever catch yourself scrolling through your phone and suddenly you're comparing your life to someone else's? Like their vacation pics, their amazing job, even their seemingly perfect Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. This whole thing about comparing ourselves to others. It's everywhere, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's something we all probably encounter way more than we'd like to admit. But what's really fascinating is this isn't just some modern day thing because of social media now.
Really?
Oh yeah, the roots run way deeper. The article we've been looking at actually points to social comparison theory, which, get this, goes all the way back to the 1950s.
Okay, social comparison theory. For those of us who might not be familiar, what's the basic idea there?
Well, in a nutshell, it suggests that we as humans, we kind of figure out where we stand by looking at other people. Especially, when we don't have clear, objective ways to measure ourselves.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. So, if you're not sure how good you are at something, you look around and see how others are doing it.
Exactly. And the theory goes on to identify two main directions for this comparison. It's either upward, meaning we're looking at those we see as better off, more successful, you name it, or it's downward, where we're looking at those we consider, well, less fortunate.
So to use a very relatable example, if someone announces a promotion on, let's say, LinkedIn, that might trigger some upward comparison. And then maybe seeing a news story about someone facing a real hardship, that could lead to downward comparison.
Exactly. You got it. Though the article does point out that both of these, upward and downward, they can have their downsides.
Oh, for sure. I can already see how upward comparison could easily lead to feeling inadequate, like you're not measuring up. And with downward, well, while it might give you a little temporary boost, it doesn't really help you deal with your own goals or insecurities. It's kind of like a distraction.
You hit the nail on the head. And then, of course, along came social media and, well, everything got, amplified, wouldn't you say?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, everyone's always presenting the most perfect, curated version of themselves online. It's hard not to get caught up in comparing yourself to that, right?
It is. There's this 2023 APA study we were looking at that found a really strong correlation between social media use, specifically on platforms that are really visually focused, and increased self-comparison.
What was the correlation specifically?
Well, it showed that individuals who spent more than a certain amount of time each day on these visually focused platforms actually experienced a significant increase in negative self-comparison. And get this happened in a pretty short period of time.
Wow. So basically, the more time people spend looking at these curated online lives, the worse they feel about themselves.
It's not quite that simple, but yeah, that's basically the gist. And what makes it even more complicated is that this effect was seen even when the study took into account people's initial levels of self-esteem. So even if you start off feeling pretty good about yourself, too much exposure to these idealized online images can still drag you down.
It's like being constantly bombarded by everyone else's highlight reel while you're stuck in your own behind-the-scenes bloopers. No wonder people are feeling inadequate.
Exactly. And the article made a really important point. It's not just the curated feeds that are contributing to this comparison epidemic. There are these broader societal pressures at play as well.
Like what? What kind of pressures?
Well, think about it. We live in a culture that's deeply rooted in capitalism, right? Which often means constant competition, this idea that you always have to be striving for more, be better than the next person.
It's like this never-ending race to the top, and there's always someone ahead of you, no matter how hard you push.
Exactly. And then there's the whole cultural narrative around success. We're bombarded with stories about what success is supposed to look like: big houses, fancy cars, prestigious job titles, tons of money. But the reality is, these external markers of success, they don't always align with what truly matters to us as individuals.
And it's so easy to get caught up in chasing these external markers of success without ever stopping to ask ourselves, is this actually what I want? Does this align with my values, my goals, my definition of a meaningful life?
You nailed it. And then on top of all of that, there's this pervasive myth of a pure meritocracy.
The idea that everyone gets what they deserve based solely on their effort, right?
Precisely. And while, effort definitely plays a role, the article emphasized that this myth often overlooks systemic inequalities and, frankly, just plain luck. So when we compare ourselves and feel like we fall short, it can reinforce this feeling that we're solely responsible for our perceived failures, which isn't always the case.
That's a really good point. It's like we're taking on this unfair burden of guilt and shame when things don't go our way without acknowledging all the external factors that might be at play.
Exactly. It's like we're playing a rigged game without even realizing it. But here's the encouraging part. The article really emphasized that comparison is, at its core, a mindset. And like any mindset, it can be reshaped, changed, reframed.
Okay, so before we get into the how-to, the strategies for actually reshaping this comparison mindset, let's talk about the cost. What are the real consequences of constantly comparing ourselves to others?
Well, psychologically, it can really mess with your head. The article put it really well. It creates this game you just can't win. There will always be someone who, in some way, seems to be doing better than you. And that can lead to this constant internal loop of feeling like you're just not enough.
It's like you're running on a treadmill that's constantly speeding up. No matter how hard you try, you never quite get ahead because the benchmark keeps shifting based on who you're looking at that day.
That's a great analogy. And then there's the emotional fallout, which can be pretty intense. We're talking increased anxiety, a higher rate of depression, and resentment. You know, that bitter feeling toward those you envy.
Ugh, resentment is the worst. It just eats away at you from the inside, doesn't it?
It really does. And there's actually a 2021 study in the Journal of Happiness Studies that we looked at that showed a strong link between frequent upward social comparison and not only a lower overall life satisfaction, but also a much higher chance of experiencing burnout.
Burnout, that makes sense. I mean, all that energy spent tracking and evaluating everyone else, it has to be exhausting, both mentally and emotionally.
Absolutely. And it's not just mental and emotional either. This chronic stress from constant comparison, it can actually manifest physically too.
Really? In what ways?
Well, think about it. When you're stressed, your body releases hormones like cortisol. And over time, this can have a real impact on your physical health. Things like sleep problems, tension headaches, even a weakened immune system can all be linked back to this ongoing internal pressure of comparison.
It's almost like our bodies are reacting to this perceived social threat in the same way they would to a physical one.
It's wild, right?
It is. And then there's how all this comparing can warp our perception of reality. It's like we start to believe that everyone else has got it all figured out.
You're right. We create this narrative in our heads that other people are effortlessly navigating life with grace and confidence while we're stumbling around in the dark.
It's that classic trap of comparing your own messy, behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's carefully curated, picture-perfect highlight reel. The article actually gave some great examples of this, like that colleague who just landed a huge promotion, they might be secretly battling imposter syndrome, or that friend with the seemingly perfect family might be going through some serious relationship issues behind closed doors.
Exactly. We forget that everyone, and I mean everyone, is dealing with their own set of challenges, their own struggles. We just don't always get to see them.
Because nobody posts their anxieties and failures on Instagram, right?
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, the biggest cost of all, the one that really struck me from the article, is how comparison robs us of our own potential.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, think about it this way. When we're so busy focusing on someone else's path, we lose sight of our own. We waste precious energy chasing goals that might not even truly resonate with us. Instead of, taking the time to really figure out what matters most to us, what makes us come alive, we're busy trying to fit into some externally imposed mold of success.
It's like we're trying to squeeze ourselves into someone else's story instead of fully owning and embracing our own. Okay, so we've established that this comparison habit is, well, pretty deeply ingrained in us, amplified by everything around us, and that it has a real cost to our well-being of our potential.
Right.
So the big question is, what can we actually do about it? How do we break free from this constant comparing?
I'm glad you asked, because the article actually outlines some really practical strategies for breaking free from this comparison trap. And the first one is all about awareness, recognizing your triggers.
Okay, triggers, that makes sense. You can't really address a problem if you don't even know when it's happening, right?
Exactly. It's like trying to fix a leaky faucet without first figuring out where the leak is coming from. The article suggests keeping a journal to track those moments when you feel that familiar twinge of comparison. Like, what were you doing? Who were you with? What thoughts were going through your mind? How did you feel physically and emotionally?
So it's about noticing those patterns. Like maybe you always find yourself comparing after scrolling through Instagram, or maybe it happens more when you're hanging out with certain people, or even just at a particular time of day when you're feeling a bit more vulnerable.
Got it. And once you start to identify those specific triggers, you can start to develop strategies for dealing with them, whether it's like limiting your exposure to certain situations or actively reframing your internal response.
So for anyone listening, here's a concrete action step. Next time you feel that comparison monster rearing its ugly head, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what just triggered this feeling? And is this trigger something I actually have any control over? Because sometimes just becoming aware of the trigger can be enough to lessen its power.
I love that. And that leads us perfectly to the second strategy, which builds on something we've already talked about. limiting your exposure to social media.
Ah, yes, the comparison minefield that is social media. You can't really talk about comparison without addressing the elephant in the room, or should I say, the perfectly filtered selfie in the room.
Good one. But you're absolutely right. Social media platforms are designed to, well, encourage comparison. They showcase these often curated and unrealistic portrayals of life, and it's hard not to get sucked in. Remember that Q Research Center report from 2022 we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the one that highlighted the immense pressure people feel to present a perfect life online.
That's the one. It's like everyone's got their own personal PR team working overtime to craft the perfect online persona.
Which, of course, is rarely the full story.
Never. The article wasn't saying we all need to become digital hermits and delete our accounts entirely,
Thank goodness.
but it did emphasize setting healthy boundaries.
Which could look like what? What are some practical ways to do that?
Well, one thing you can do is unfollow accounts that consistently leave you feeling bad about yourself. You know, those accounts that make you question your own life choices or make you feel inadequate.
Out with the bad vibes.
Exactly. Another thing is to try to curate your feed so you're seeing more content that genuinely inspires you, stuff that's educational, funny, uplifting. And don't underestimate the power of those built-in screen time management tools that are on your phone and other devices.
Oh, those are good.
They're lifesavers. Use them to set limits on how much time you're spending on these platforms each day. Even a small reduction can make a difference.
So action step number 2, consider doing a 24-hour social media detox this weekend. I know it sounds scary, but just try it. See how it feels to disconnect for a bit. Pay attention to how your mood shifts, how your focus changes. You might be surprised at what you discover. Okay, strategy number 3 is a bit more positive, a bit more, let's say, proactive. It's about reframing comparison as a source of inspiration.
Ooh, I like this one.
Me too. So instead of immediately spiraling into envy when you see someone else's success, the idea is to consciously shift your perspective and ask yourself, what can I actually learn from this person? What skills have they developed? What strategies have they used? What steps have they taken that I could potentially apply to my own journey?
It's about turning that initial twinge of envy into, like, genuine motivation.
Exactly. It's like instead of thinking, oh, I'll never be that good, you shift to, okay, how did they get there? And what can I learn from their experience? It's about curiosity, not self-criticism.
You're so right. And sometimes the article even suggested reaching out to that person you admire and just asking them about their journey.
Oh, I love that.
Right? You might be surprised at how open people are to sharing their experiences, and you could gain some really valuable insights. Even if you don't feel comfortable reaching out directly, maybe just try incorporating one of their positive habits into your own routine. Like if they wake up early to exercise, maybe give that a try. Or if they dedicate time each day to learning a new skill, see if you can do the same.
Great advice. Actionable step for this one. Think of one person you've recently compared yourself to, and then list 3 specific qualities or actions they have that you can genuinely work towards.
Perfect. And strategy number 4 brings the focus back to you. It encourages you to define your own version of success.
Because, let's be honest, so much of this comparison stuff comes from measuring ourselves against these external, often totally arbitrary standards of success, right?
100%. We're constantly bombarded with the messages about what success should look like, the big house, the fancy car, the prestigious job title. But the article really encourages you to take a step back and ask yourself, what does success truly mean to me? What are my values? What are my priorities?
It's about writing your own definition of success on your own terms.
Exactly. And that definition might look completely different from what society tells you it should be. Maybe it's about creative expression, or spending quality time with loved ones, or making a positive impact on the world, or just having the freedom to pursue your passions.
I love that. It's about running your own race, on your own course, with your own set of rules for what constitutes a win.
Exactly. So your action step for this one, spend some time really thinking about and writing down what success means to you personally. Maybe even craft a personal mission statement that encapsulates your core values and your vision for your life. The article gave a great example. Success, for me, is having enough time for my family and being able to pursue my art, regardless of my income level.
That's beautiful. And I think it leads perfectly into strategy number 5, which is all about cultivating a daily practice of gratitude.
Gratitude. The article actually called Gratitude Comparison's Kryptonite. And I think that's such a spot-on analogy.
It really is.
When you consciously focus on what you already have, what you're grateful for, it leaves less space in your head for those envious comparative thoughts.
It's like shifting from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance. And there's actually some good scientific evidence to support this. A 2020 study in the journal Emotion found that regularly practicing gratitude can have a really positive impact on overall well-being. And specifically, it can help reduce feelings of envy and social comparison.
Exactly. And then the great thing about gratitude is you don't need a lot of time or resources to practice it. Even small, consistent acts of gratitude can make a big difference over time. The article suggests a simple practice. Each day, take a few minutes to write down 3 things you're genuinely thankful for.
I love that. And it doesn't have to be anything monumental. It could be something as simple as a good cup of coffee, a sunny day, a meaningful conversation with a friend, anything that brings a smile to your face.
Exactly.
So action step number 5 is to set a recurring reminder for yourself, maybe on your phone or in your calendar, to actively write down your gratitude list each day. Make it a ritual. Okay, moving on to strategy number 6, which is all about celebrating your wins, both big and small.
Yes, it's so easy to focus on our shortcomings and downplay our accomplishments, while at the same time overemphasizing the achievements of others. This strategy is about flipping that script and making a conscious effort to acknowledge and celebrate your own progress, no matter how small it might seem.
It's about building that internal sense of accomplishment and self-worth rather than seeking validation from the outside world.
Precisely. And the article suggested some really easy ways to do this. You could write down one thing you're proud of accomplishing at the end of each day, or even create a wins jar. Where you write down your achievements on little pieces of paper and put them in a jar.
Oh, I love that idea. It's a tangible reminder of all the amazing things you've done.
Exactly. And then you can pull out those clips of paper whenever you're feeling down on yourself and get a little boost of confidence.
Okay, action step for this one. Start paying attention to those little wins throughout your day and make a conscious effort to acknowledge them. Write them down, put them in a jar, whatever works for you. Okay, strategy number 7 encourages us to take a broader perspective and really focus on our own unique journey.
Love this one. It reminds us that life isn't a linear race. It's more like a winding marathon, and everyone's running their own race at their own pace on their own course. Trying to constantly compare your progress to someone else's is just a recipe for frustration and self-doubt.
It's like that saying, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Yes. Or the article used a really great analogy. It's like judging a fish on its ability to climb a tree. We all have different strengths, different timelines, different challenges. The key is to focus on your own progress for own growth and celebrate how far you've come.
I love that.
Yeah, and a good way to do this is to think back to where you were a year ago or even just a few months ago. Ask yourself, what skills have I developed? What challenges have I overcome? How have I grown?
Action step for this one. Create a timeline of your life's significant milestones. And this doesn't have to be just about career achievements. Include personal growth, moments of learning, relationships, challenges you've navigated, anything that feels meaningful to you. Reflect on your own unique trajectory and celebrate how far you've come. Strategy number 8 is a really important one, cultivating self-compassion.
Self-compassion. This is such a game changer. It's basically about treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and empathy that you would offer to a close friend who is struggling. When you inevitably catch yourself comparing and feeling bad, instead of beating yourself up about it, try to practice self-compassion.
It's about acknowledging those feelings without judgment, recognizing that it's a normal human experience, and reminding yourself that it's okay to not be perfect.
Exactly. Kristen Neff, who's done a lot of amazing work on self-compassion, says that it's all about recognizing that imperfection and suffering are part of the shared human experience. We all go through it. The article suggested a really simple yet powerful exercise you can try when you're feeling down on yourself. Place your hand gently over your heart and repeat to yourself, "I'm enough, just as I am," or "May I be kind to myself in this moment."
I love that. It's such a simple act, but I can imagine it being so grounding and comforting in those moments of self-doubt. So your action step for this one is to try that simple exercise. Next time you feel the comparison gremlin starting to creep in, just place your hand on your heart and remind yourself that you are enough just as you are.
Absolutely.
Okay, strategy number 9 focuses on the importance of your social environment. Surround yourself with supportive and uplifting people.
This one is so key. The people we spend time with have a huge influence on our mindset and our self-perception. If you're constantly around people who are competitive, negative, or always trying to one-up each other, it's going to be that much harder to break free from the comparison trap.
It's like that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. So make a conscious effort to seek out and nurture relationships with people who are genuinely supportive, who celebrate your successes without envy, and who make you feel good about yourself. It's all about quality over quantity.
Action step. This week, reach out to at least one person in your life who you know is a positive and supportive force. Invite them for coffee, give them a call, send a text, and just nurture that connection. Okay, strategy number 10 is a reminder about something we talked about earlier, the importance of challenging the highlight reel.
Oh yes, it's so crucial to remember that what you're seeing, whether it's on social media or even just in everyday interactions, is often a carefully curated and edited version of reality. People tend to present their best selves to the world, hiding their struggles, their insecurities, their imperfections.
It's like comparing your own messy, unedited documentary to everyone else's perfectly polished Hollywood blockbuster.
You got it. So the next time you find yourself feeling envious of someone else's seemingly perfect life, try to humanize them a bit. Remind yourself that they are just as human as you are, with their own challenges and struggles. The article suggested actually writing down 3 potential problems or difficulties that the person you're envying might be facing, even if they aren't outwardly visible.
That's a great exercise. It helps break down that illusion of effortless perfection and reminds us that everyone's got their own stuff going on. Okay, strategy number 11 introduces a really empowering concept, cultivating a growth mindset.
Ah, yes, this one comes from work of Carol Dweck, and it's all about shifting your perspective on your own abilities and potential. Instead of seeing your talents and intelligence as fixed traits, a growth mindset embraces the belief that you can develop and grow through dedication, effort, and learning.
So instead of thinking, I'm just not good at this and I never will be, you start to believe, I can get better at this if I put in the time and effort. It's about focusing on the process of learning and growing, not just the outcome.
Exactly. And it can really change how you view other people's success. Instead of seeing it as evidence of your own inadequacy, you start to see it as inspiration, as proof that growth and achievement are possible if you're willing to work for it.
So action step for this one. Think of one specific skill or area of expertise that you admire in someone else, and then commit to spending just 10 minutes each day actively practicing or learning something related to that skill. It's all about embracing that lifelong journey of learning and growth.
I love that.
Okay, strategy number 12 is all about disconnecting from the need for constant external validation.
Yes, this one is so important. If you're constantly relying on external sources for your sense of worth and accomplishment, you're always going to be vulnerable to comparison. You'll be on this constant roller coaster of feeling good when you get praise and attention and feeling down when you don't.
It's like you're outsourcing your self-esteem to other people.
You said it. True, lasting self-worth needs to come from within. It needs to be based on your own values, your own integrity, your own effort, not on the fleeting opinions of others.
So how do we start to cultivate that inner sense of worth?
The article suggested a really interesting exercise. Try going for one whole day without seeking any kind of external validation. No posting on social media, no fishing for compliments, just being fully present in your own experience without needing anyone else's approval.
Wow, that sounds both terrifying and incredibly liberating.
It is. It's a challenge, but it can be really eye-opening.
So your action step for this one is to try that experiment. Pick a day and commit to just being yourself without needing anyone else's stamp of approval. Pay attention to how that feels.
I'm going to try it too.
Me too. Okay, strategy number 13 is all about embracing your uniqueness.
Yes. This one is all about celebrating what makes you, you. No one else on this planet has your exact combination of experiences, passions, quirks, and perspectives. Comparison tries to erase that beautiful individuality, but we need to actively fight against that.
We need to embrace and celebrate those things that make us different, those things that we might have previously seen as flaws or weaknesses. Often those are the very things that make us interesting, relatable, and truly authentic.
So true. The article had this cute little suggestion, which is to make a list of 5 things that you genuinely believe make you unique.
Oh, I love that. It's like a little reminder of all the amazing things that make you, you.
Exactly. And you can keep that list somewhere visible, like on your desk or on your mirror, as a little boost of self-love and confidence.
Okay, action step. Go make that list right now. Write down 5 things that make you uniquely you and put it somewhere you'll see it every day. Okay, strategy number 14 brings us to the power of mindfulness.
Ah, mindfulness. Mindfulness is about bringing your full attention to the present moment without any judgment. It's about really experiencing what's happening right now, the sights, the sounds, the sensations, without getting caught up in thoughts about the past or the future, or in this case, thoughts about other people.
It's about anchoring yourself in the present moment, where the only reality that matters is your own direct experience.
You got it.
And the article suggested that even simple mindfulness exercises, like focusing on your breath for a few minutes each day, can really help to quiet those comparative thoughts and bring you back to the present moment.
Absolutely. And there are so many great resources available now, like apps and websites with guided meditations that can help you get started with mindfulness. You can literally find something for every taste and every time commitment, even if it's just for a few minutes a day.
Okay, your action step for this one is to try a 5-minute mindfulness exercise today. Just find a quiet spot, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest, the gentle flow of air in and out of your nostrils. And if your mind starts to wander, which it inevitably will, just gently guide it back to your breath. And finally, strategy number 15 is about recognizing when you might need a little extra support, seeking professional help.
This is such an important one. If those feelings of comparison are really persistent, if they're impacting your mood, your relationships, your ability to function in your daily life, don't hesitate to reach out for professional help.
It's like if you had a broken leg, you wouldn't try to fix it yourself, right? You'd go to a doctor. Well, mental health is just as important as physical health, and there are trained professionals who can help you navigate these challenges.
Exactly. And there are so many different types of therapy available now, like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, for example, can be really effective for addressing negative thought patterns and developing healthier coping mechanisms.
So if you're feeling stuck, please don't suffer in silence. Reach out for support. There's no shame in seeking help, and it could make a world of difference in your life.
Absolutely. And the good news is there are so many resources available now, both in person and online, so it's easier than ever to find a therapist who's a good fit for you.
Awesome. So your final action step for today is to take some time to research local therapists or online therapy platforms if this resonates with you. Remember, taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health. Okay, as we wrap up our deep dive today, it's important to remember that overcoming comparison is a journey.
Right.
It's not like you just flip a switch and suddenly you're free from those thoughts and feelings. There will be ups and downs, times when you feel like you're making progress and times when you feel like you're taking a step back, and that's perfectly normal. The key is to have these strategies in your piddle kit so you can gently redirect your focus back to your own path.
It's about progress, not perfection. And just imagine how freeing it will feel when you can shift all that energy you used to spend comparing yourself to others towards pursuing your own goals and passions. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, and your joy.
I love that. And to leave you with a final thought to ponder, imagine a life where you are fully the protagonist of your own story, shining brightly in your own unique way, not a supporting character in someone else's narrative.
Yes.
Ultimately, the only person you truly need to impress, the only person whose approval really matters, is you. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive today, and we'll see you next time. Okay, so you've sent in some really interesting material about mindfulness, and we really want to dig into that for you today and see if we can sift through and find out, what are some of the most compelling and maybe even like life-changing reasons to start practicing mindfulness. So really going to kind of deconstruct this whole thing, what it is, where it comes from, and how we know that it can be genuinely transformative in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at its core, mindfulness is really quite simple.
Right.
But it's also incredibly powerful. Really, it's about training your attention to be fully present in the moment. Noticing what's happening right now, your thoughts, your feelings, what's going on in your environment, and just kind of observing it all without any judgment. And, the roots of this practice go way back, ancient Buddhist traditions.
Right.
But what's really exciting is that modern research is not only confirming those benefits, but it's actually quantifying them in really incredible ways.
Yeah, and I love how, this isn't just about kind of feeling zen. Your sources really suggest some surprising impacts. We're going to dive into how mindfulness can really get in there and, shift things from like dialing down stress and boosting your emotional well-being to sharpening your focus, improving your physical health, even strengthening your relationships and helping you sleep better. So get ready for some real moments as we extract the crucial insights.
Yeah, let's dive right in with something that I think really resonates with almost everyone.
Right.
And that's stress and anxiety. Your material makes a really strong argument for mindfulness being a real game changer in this area. There's even talk of it actually lowering cortisol levels.
Okay, so let's unpack this. How does simply being more present in the moment actually lead to like a real physical change, like lower cortisol? It almost sounds a little too good to be true.
It really comes down to the incredible connection between your mind and body. When you're constantly caught up in worry or feeling anxious, your body basically goes into this like high alert state, and that triggers the release of cortisol. Now, what mindfulness training does is it helps you become aware of those anxious thoughts as they pop up, but without getting completely carried away by them. It's almost like creating a little bit of space between you and your thoughts.
So instead of being, tossed around in the rapids, you're standing on solid ground, kind of observing the flow without getting pulled under.
Exactly. And your sources highlight a couple of key ways that this actually works. One is that mindfulness helps you regulate your emotions more effectively. When you're more aware of your emotional state, you're less likely to just react on impulse or get overwhelmed by anxiety.
Right.
And then the other piece of this is the power of breathing exercises, which are often like a cornerstone of mindfulness practice. These exercises actually directly tap into your parasympathetic nervous system. It's kind of like your body's natural chill out button.
That makes total sense. Slowing down your breath.
Yeah.
It's like physically telling your body to relax.
Exactly.
That study from Harvard Medical School, the one on mindfulness-based stress reduction or MBSR, showing a significant reduction in anxiety symptoms? That's not just anecdotal, that's like gold standard research.
Absolutely. And it really emphasizes that this isn't just some, fluffing concept. There's really rigorous peer-reviewed science showing that it's effective in tackling both those everyday stresses that can really wear you down and then also more deep-seated persistent anxiety.
Now, let's move beyond just the daily grind of stress. Your sources also really delve into how mindfulness can affect our overall emotional well-being. It sounds like it can really help you build kind of an inner core of resilience.
Totally. If we think about the bigger picture of, navigating the ups and downs of life, mindfulness gives you a way to really change your relationship with your emotions instead of trying to model them up or push them away, which, let's be honest, often just backfires. You learn to just observe them with a sense of curiosity and acceptance. And this creates space for you to process them in a way that's healthier and more constructive.
So it's not about, being in this constant state of like blissed out happiness, but it's about being better equipped to handle the full range of emotions,
Right.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Precisely. And your material really highlights how mindfulness can actually help reduce symptoms of depression. It helps you redirect your attention away from those negative thought patterns that can really drag you down into a spiral.
Right.
It also cultivates self-compassion and self-acceptance, which are so important for strong emotional health. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend.
Yeah, that really hits home. We can be so hard on ourselves sometimes.
Absolutely.
And that study in psychological science that you shared, linking regular mindfulness practice to greater emotional stability and fewer mood swings, that seems to suggest, a real ranking effect on our emotional landscape.
Yeah, it does. It seems to indicate that with consistent practice, you become less reactive to the emotional ups and downs of life and more grounded in this sense of inner equilibrium.
Now, something that I know I personally struggle with in this age of, constant notifications and pings is staying focused. And your sources point to mindfulness as a real secret weapon against this digital distraction.
Right.
So how exactly does it help us sharpen our concentration?
I think this brings up a really important point about how our brains are wired in this constantly connected world. Mindfulness really offers a way to kind of rewire your brain for better focus. Your sources talk about mindfulness strengthening the prefrontal cortex, which is like the control center of your brain.
Right.
It's responsible for attention, decision-making, impulse control.
So it's like doing mental reps for the part of your brain that helps you stay on task.
Yeah, in a way, by regularly practicing bringing your attention back to the present moment. Whether you're focusing on your breath, your physical sensations, or whatever task you're doing. You're actually training your brain to be more attentive and less susceptible to those distracting stimuli. And your sources also talk about improvements in working memory, your ability to hold and manipulate information, and cognitive flexibility, which is your brain's ability to switch between tasks and adapt to different situations.
That is huge. Being able to juggle tasks effectively and keep information readily accessible in your mind, those are such valuable skills in the world today.
Absolutely.
And you know that study from the University of California, Santa Barbara, the one showing improved performance on cognitive tasks and increased focus in students who practice mindfulness, that's really compelling, in this context. It points to real-world benefits for things like learning and productivity.
It does. It clearly shows that mindfulness isn't just about achieving a state of inner peace. It actually has measurable effects on your cognitive abilities and your capacity to focus.
It's just amazing to see how these seemingly simple mental exercises can have such broad impacts. And speaking of wide-ranging effects, your material even mentions the physical health benefits of mindfulness. Some of these connections were pretty surprising to me.
What's really eye-opening is the incredibly intricate link between mental and physical well-being that's often overlooked.
Right.
And your sources actually suggest that mindfulness can play a role in strengthening your immune system.
How does that work? Is it just an indirect effect through reducing stress, or is there like a more direct physiological mechanism going on there?
Most likely it's a bit of both.
Okay.
Chronic stress is known to suppress the immune system. So by effectively reducing stress, mindfulness can have a positive impact in that way.
Right.
However, there's also some emerging research suggesting more direct effects, possibly through the regulation of the nervous and endocrine systems.
Okay.
And, another really intriguing physical benefit is the mention of reduced chronic pain.
The idea that mindfulness can actually change your perception of pain, that's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's not that the pain goes away, but your brain reacts to it differently.
Exactly. It's not necessarily about eliminating the physical sensation itself, but more about changing how your brain processes those pain signals,
Okay.
making them feel less intense and less overwhelming.
I see.
And then there are the studies that point to lower blood pressure and improved cardiovascular health, which are really significant. They suggest that mindfulness really has this holistic impact on your physical well-being.
And that study in psychosomatic medicine that linked mindfulness meditation to lower levels of inflammatory markers really seems to connect everything together, because inflammation is implicated in so many chronic diseases.
Absolutely. It really even scores that mindfulness isn't just some abstract mental exercise. It actually has real measurable physiological benefits that can impact your entire system.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about relationships. Your sources explore how mindfulness can improve how we connect with other people. It makes sense intuitively. Being fully present with someone feels like a fundamental part of good communication.
It really is. If we go back to our earlier conversation about the core principles of being present and non-judgmental, think about how powerfully those translate into your interactions with others. Mindfulness really enhances your active listening skills because you're more focused on what the other person is actually saying rather than being distracted by your own thoughts or, already planning your response.
Right, so less mental chatter going on in your head means more bandwidth to really pay attention to the person right in front of you.
Exactly. It also fosters greater empathy. By becoming more attuned to your own emotions, you develop a greater capacity to understand and share the feelings of others. And the reduction in reactive behaviors is so key in preventing unnecessary conflicts. When you're practicing mindfulness, you're less likely to get swept away by, anger or frustration in the heat of the moment.
That's something we could all use a little more of.
Right.
And that research that you included from the Journal of Marital and Family Therapy showing higher levels of relationship satisfaction for couples who practice mindfulness together, that really speaks volumes about its potential to strengthen our bonds with others.
It does. It strongly suggests that mindfulness can be a really valuable tool for building healthier, more fulfilling, and more resilient relationships across the board.
Another area where so many people struggle is getting a good night's sleep. Your sources actually suggest that mindfulness could be a path to more restful nights.
Yeah, and it's really insightful here is how many sleep problems are really linked to just having a busy, anxious, overactive mind. Mindfulness tackles this directly by helping to quiet those racing thoughts that can keep you up at night.
So it's like turning down the volume on that internal noise that keeps you awake.
Exactly. Your sources also mention that mindfulness can help regulate your nighttime cortisol levels, allowing them to naturally decline, which helps you relax and prepares your body for sleep. There's even evidence that it might boost melatonin production, the hormone that regulates your sleep-wake cycle.
That is great news for anyone who's ever tossed and turned at 3 in the morning. And that study in JAMA Internal Medicine demonstrating improved sleep quality in adults with chronic insomnia who did mindfulness meditation really offers some hope.
It does. It suggests that mindfulness can be a safe, effective, and drug-free approach to managing those persistent sleep problems.
Beyond all these specific benefits that we've talked about, your sources also touch on the more personal aspects of growth and self-awareness that mindfulness can foster. How does simply being present in your life lead to a deeper understanding of yourself?
This is where the practice can get really transformative on a personal level. By just consistently observing your own thoughts and emotions as they arise without judging or analyzing them, you start to become much more aware of underlying patterns. Things like negative thought loops that you might not have even noticed before, habitual reactions to certain situations, even your deeper motivations and values. And this increased self-awareness is like the foundation of personal growth.
So it's like holding up a mirror to your inner world, but instead of criticizing what you see, you're just observing it with curiosity.
Yeah, in a way, but with a really non-judgmental approach. Your material suggests that this awareness can help you identify and then start to consciously replace negative or unhelpful thought patterns with more positive and constructive ones. It can also foster a stronger growth mindset, making you more resilient when things get tough and more open to learning and change. And it can even strengthen your self-discipline and decision-making because it allows you to act with more intention and less impulsivity.
It sounds like it gives you more control over your inner life and, as a result, your actions in the world.
Absolutely.
Finally, your sources connect mindfulness to the development of gratitude and ultimately a greater sense of happiness. How does focusing on the present moment lead to more appreciation for what you have?
What's really beautiful here is how mindfulness kind of gently shifts your focus away from what might be lacking in your life and directs your attention toward what's actually present right now. By really noticing and appreciating the little things, the warmth of your coffee, the beauty of a sunny day, a kind word from a coworker, you naturally start to cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude.
It's about savoring the here and now instead of always longing for the next thing or dwelling on the past.
Exactly. And your sources really suggest that this attitude of gratitude that's nurtured by mindfulness directly contributes to more happiness and well-being. It encourages positive thinking, reduces the power of negative emotions by fostering acceptance, and ultimately boosts your overall satisfaction with life.
And that study in the Journal of Positive Psychology linking mindfulness and gratitude exercises to a significant increase in reported happiness really highlights that connection.
It does. It really shows the synergy between these two practices, both of which are rooted in paying attention to the present moment.
Well, diving into your sources has been truly eye-opening. It's so clear that mindfulness isn't just a fad. It's a practice with deep roots and a lot of scientific backing for a really impressive range of benefits. From managing stress and anxiety to improving your focus, boosting your physical health, strengthening your relationships, getting better sleep, fostering self-awareness, and cultivating gratitude and happiness.
It really is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing for you to take away from this is how accessible this practice truly is. You don't need any special equipment or expensive retreats or even a huge time commitment. Even just a few minutes a day of mindful attention can start to make a real difference in your life.
So as you think about all of this, consider one area of your life where you might be looking for a positive change. Maybe it's dealing with the pressures of work. Maybe it's sharpening your focus on important tasks or just finding more moments of peace and contentment. Think about how even just a few conscious breaths or a few moments of truly being present in the moment woven into your day and routine could lead to some profound and lasting changes. It's an invitation to explore what happens when you truly show up for your life moment by moment.
All right, welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into a topic I think a lot of us can relate to. Making a killer first impression when you're speaking English. You know that feeling, right? It's like all eyes are on you.
Yeah, for sure.
And you want to get it right.
Oh, absolutely.
You're thinking about the words, how you sound, and hoping to actually connect with the person you're talking to.
It's almost like being on stage a little bit.
Yeah.
Very aware of yourself.
Totally. So today, what we really want to do is unpack some practical strategies that can help you make those first encounters in English. Well, really fantastic. And it's not about being perfect, right?
No, not at all.
It's more about having the confidence to speak clearly and,
Yeah.
building a connection with whoever you're meeting.
And I think it's worth highlighting just how important first impressions are. There's a lot of research out there that shows people form opinions, like, really quickly.
Oh, wow.
Within seconds, actually. So whether you're trying to make new friends or nail that job interview or just have a good chat with someone new, those first few moments can really make a difference.
Okay, so let's break this down. Our sources all point to something really fundamental. Your attitude, your mindset.
Yeah, that inner game.
Yeah, exactly.
Good before
you even start speaking. Because it turns out that has a huge impact on how you come across.
Right. I mean, think about it. If you go into a conversation thinking, oh no, I'm going to mess up, or my English isn't good enough,
Yeah.
that negativity can actually creep into the way you speak. You might sound hesitant, or even your body language might show that anxiety.
So what they suggest is to actively try and shift that inner dialogue. Instead of focusing on the mistakes you might make, tell yourself, hey, my one she's a work in progress, but I can do this. I can communicate.
Right. And what's fascinating is how that mental shift can actually have, like, physical effects.
Oh, interesting.
When you feel more positive, you tend to be less nervous. And when you're less nervous, your natural communication style,
It flows better.
Yeah, exactly. It comes through. You just sound more relaxed, less hesitant.
There's a great example in one of the sources about meeting a new classmate. Let's say you walk in and your head's full of thoughts like, what if they can't understand me?
Yeah, you're already setting yourself up for a tough time.
Right, exactly. But imagine if you walked in thinking, this is a chance to meet someone cool and practice my English.
It's a completely different energy, isn't it?
Totally, totally. And I think that enthusiasm, even if you don't have a huge vocabulary yet, can be really appealing to other people.
It shows you're open, you're willing to engage.
And there's this really simple but powerful tip they mention. Before you start speaking, just take a deep breath and smile.
Sounds basic, but it makes such a difference.
It does. Smiling is like a universal sign of, hey, I'm friendly.
It's welcoming.
It is. And that deep breath can help you calm down.
Yeah, you center yourself.
Yeah, and your voice sounds more confident.
Totally.
All right, so we're starting with the right mindset. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, those first words you say. And our sources emphasize, like, really mastering those basic greetings and introductions.
Oh yeah, those are key.
They lay the groundwork for the whole conversation.
It's like the foundation of the interaction. And when you get those right, not only does it give you a boost of confidence, but it also makes the other person feel more comfortable and recognized.
So what are we talking about? The essentials, right? Like, hello, hi, and obviously using the right one for the time of day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
And then when you're introducing yourself, you've got the classic, my name is your name, or maybe a slightly less formal, I'm your name, and that all-important, nice to meet you.
And then, to keep the conversation flowing, they suggest having a couple of those simple follow-up questions ready.
Yeah, like, where are you from? Or how are you today?
Exactly.
Those are great because you're showing genuine interest in the other person.
Yeah.
You're encouraging them to talk. It goes beyond just stating your own information.
They actually give a little example dialogue. It's you as Maria saying, hello, my name's Maria, nice to meet you. And then the other person, John, says, hi, Maria, I'm John, nice to meet you too. And then you say, thank you, John, where are you from? Basic, but it works.
Right. It's so simple, but it really establishes that politeness, that curiosity, and it shows you're interested in getting to know them.
They even suggest a little exercise. Write down 5 different ways to greet someone and practice saying them out loud. They even say, record yourself.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So you can hear how you sound. Right, aim for that clear, friendly tone.
Yeah, because that self-assessment is so valuable. You hear yourself the way other people hear you, and you can pick up on things like, are you rushing? Are you sounding unsure? Or maybe even too formal.
Okay, moving on. Another big takeaway from the sources is the importance of speaking slowly and clearly. It's tempting to speed up,
Oh, especially when you're nervous.
Yeah, or you're trying to sound really fluent. But they argue that it actually makes it harder for people to understand you.
It's funny how that works, right? You think you need to rush to get all your words out.
Right.
But a slightly slower pace actually makes you easier to understand.
They have this really great comparison. They write out, hi, I'm Ahmed, I live in Dubai and Likita, play football, all smushed together.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Versus, hi, I'm Ahmed, I live in Dubai and I like to play football, with pauses.
Night and day, right.
Huge difference.
It's those little pauses that give your listener time to process what you're saying. Plus, you sound more composed, more in control.
And they give this fully practical tip. Try silently counting 1, 2 between sentences.
Ah, like a little internal metronome.
Yeah, to find that good rhythm.
That's a great strategy. It's a tangible way to control your pace and avoid rushing. And over time, it starts to feel more natural.
So now let's talk about pronunciation. The advice here isn't about adopting a specific accent or anything.
Right, it's not about trying to sound like someone you're not.
Exactly. It's more about clarity.
Making sure people can understand what you're saying.
They suggest focusing on pronouncing those key, everyday words correctly. Things like hello, thank you, please.
Yeah, the basics.
And of course, your own name.
Getting those common words right makes such a big difference. If people can understand those core elements, they're much more likely to follow along with the rest of what you're saying.
What about when someone mispronounces your name? It happens all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
They suggest a polite way to correct them. Like, it's Sophia, thank you.
I like that. It's clear, but not aggressive.
Right. It's just informative.
You're setting the record straight without making a big deal out of it.
And for practice, they recommend picking 10 everyday words, like water, food, work.
Simple stuff.
Yeah, and using an online dictionary that has audio pronunciations.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You listen and repeat, like 5 times a day.
Focusing on those words you use all the time, it really helps solidify those sounds.
All right, now for the words you actually use. This advice might surprise you. When you're first meeting someone, it's often better to stick with simpler words and sentences.
That's interesting.
It can be tempting to try and show off a fancy vocabulary.
Right, you want to impress.
But if you use those complex words incorrectly,
Well, they sound out of place.
yeah, it can just confuse people.
It's better to prioritize clarity, especially in those first few minutes.
They have this funny comparison, I am exceedingly delighted to encounter you,
Okay, a bit much.
versus I'm happy to meet you.
Yeah, that's much more natural.
Right, and probably easier to say when you're feeling nervous.
Definitely.
So their tip is to start building a word bank of maybe 50 to 100 basic English words.
Okay, like a foundation.
Exactly. Words like good, like want, know, and then practice using them in sentences. I like coffee. I want to learn.
It's like building blocks for more complex communication.
Totally.
You've got to get those basics down pat.
Now let's shift gears then and talk about something that goes beyond specific words. Showing politeness and respect. Our sources really emphasize how crucial this is.
Yeah, that transcends language, doesn't it?
It does. Being polite makes you more likable.
It just makes the interaction more pleasant for everyone.
In English, some of the most powerful words you can use are just please, thank you, and excuse me.
Those are magic words, and so easy to learn.
Right, and so versatile. You can use them in so many situations.
It instantly elevates the level of courtesy.
There's a great example of asking for directions. Excuse me, can you help me please? And then the person helps you and you say, thank you. So simple, but it makes a good impression.
It shows you're considerate, you're appreciative of their help.
This suggests a fun little exercise. Practice using please and thank you in different situations throughout the day.
I like that.
And pay attention to how people react.
Yeah, you'll notice a difference. People tend to be more helpful and friendly when you're polite.
Now, making a good first impression isn't just about what you say, right?
No, of course not. You've got to listen too.
Yeah, being a good listener, active listening is super important.
It shows you're engaged, you care about what the other person's saying, and honestly, it gives you a little time to think about your own response.
They mention things like nodding, making eye contact.
But not in a creepy way.
No, comfortable eye contact.
Yeah, just to show you're present.
And using little phrases like I see or that's interesting.
It lets the speaker know you're following along.
And a really important tip, if you don't understand something, don't be afraid to ask for clarification. Sorry, could you say that again?
Much better than pretending you understand and then saying something totally off topic.
Exactly. Now let's talk about those nonverbal cues.
Body language.
The silent messages we send. Our sources emphasize how much these matter.
Oh, yeah. Your posture, your eye contact, your facial expressions, they all play a huge role in the impression you make.
They can either reinforce what you're saying or, if they're mismatched.
Yeah, they can send a confusing message.
Exactly. They talk about standing or sitting up straight, having good posture, making eye contact, and having a friendly expression.
Even if you're feeling nervous inside.
Right. It's about projecting confidence and approachability.
Those nonverbal cues can really help establish a connection.
And they give this example. Imagine saying, nice to meet you, but you're slouching, avoiding eye contact, and frowning.
Yeah, that's not going to go over well.
Not exactly a warm welcome. But if you say it with good posture, eye contact, and a genuine smile.
That's much better.
It makes a world of difference.
The message is so much stronger. You come across as sincere and confident.
They even suggest practicing in front of a mirror.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Try saying a simple greeting, smile, nod, and see how it makes you feel.
Sometimes you don't even realize what your body language is doing.
Right. It's good to be aware. Now, our sources really stress the importance of preparation.
Oh, yeah. Planning ahead can make a huge difference.
Thinking about those common situations where you'll be speaking English,
like at school, at work, or while traveling.
and preparing a few relevant phrases beforehand.
It's like having a toolkit of useful expressions.
They give some great examples. For school, you could say, hi, I'm new here. Can you tell me about this class?
Simple and straightforward.
For work, you might say, good morning, I'm your name. I work in your department.
Perfect for that first day.
And for travel, something like, "Excuse me, where's the bus stop, please?"
Those are such good starting points. It takes the pressure off when you have a few phrases ready to go.
So their exercise is to think of 3 potential situations you might find yourself in, and write down 2 or 3 sentences you could use.
Okay, I like that.
And practice them until they feel natural.
It's all about building that fluency.
Now let's be real, mistakes are going to happen. It's part of the process.
It's inevitable. Nobody's perfect, especially when you're learning a new language.
The important thing is not to freak out when you mess up.
Exactly, just stay calm.
They suggest either laughing it off
Yeah, humor can be a great diffuser.
or just calmly correcting yourself.
That's a good approach, too.
There's a great example of someone forgetting the word pizza, and it turns into this funny little exchange,
I bet.
and it shows how a mistake can actually become a charming moment.
People appreciate what you're trying. And a little self-deprecating humor never hurts.
A good phrase to remember is, "Sorry, my English is still improving."
It's honest and straightforward.
Right. It acknowledges the challenge without dwelling on it.
People respect that.
Of course, all of this takes practice. Consistent practice is really the key.
Yeah, there's no shortcut to fluency. The more you use the language, the more comfortable you become.
They have all sorts of suggestions for incorporating practice into your routine. Talking to yourself,
It sounds weird, but it works.
joining language exchange groups, chatting with friends online.
All great options.
One exercise they recommend is recording yourself saying a introduction.
Back to the recording.
Yeah, like, "Hi, I'm your name, I'm from your country, I like your hobby."
And then listen back critically.
Pay attention to your speed, your tone, your clarity.
It's amazing what you can pick up on when you listen to yourself.
And for conversational practice, they suggest finding a language partner online,
Someone to chat with regularly.
even for short periods, just to get that back and forth going.
Yeah, even 10 minutes a day can make a difference.
Finally, they talk about actively learning from native English speakers.
That's one of the best ways to pick up natural-sounding phrases and intonation.
Watching movies, TV shows, online videos, pay attention to how they start conversations, their tone, their pace, the words they use.
It's like immersing yourself in the language.
They give an example of a casual greeting. "Hey, good to see ya. How's it going?"
Nice and informal.
And they encourage you to try mimicking that kind of friendly vibe.
It makes your English sound more natural, less textbooky.
They even suggest picking a short scene from something you enjoy and repeating the dialogue aloud, trying out different emotions.
So you get comfortable with different ways of expressing yourself.
To bring it all together, they present a sample conversation that might happen at a language exchange meetup.
Okay, cool.
It's between Anna from Brazil and Tom from the UK, and it really shows how all these different elements, the greetings, the politeness, the active listening, the positive attitude, all come together in a natural way.
A real-life example. It's always helpful to see how these things play out in practice.
So the main takeaway is that making a good first impression in English isn't about being perfect. It's about being clear, friendly, and confident.
Exactly. It's about connecting with the other person and making them feel at ease.
And the best way to start is by taking small steps. Choose 1 or 2 things from today's episode to focus on.
Maybe practice your greetings, slow down your pace, remember to smile.
Every conversation is a chance to learn and improve.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and make mistakes. That's how you grow.
And here's a final thought. With effort and a positive attitude, you can absolutely leave people with a great first impression. Wouldn't it be amazing if someone walked away thinking, "Wow, what a nice person"? Which of these strategies will you try first? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
See you next time. Bye.
Okay, so have you ever, had that moment where you really need to say sorry in English?
Yeah.
And you're just not sure if you're really getting it right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe things feel kind of awkward?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like, is my apology actually saying what I wanted to say?
Oh, yeah. I think we've all been there.
Right.
Sure.
So that's exactly what we're diving deep into today.
Okay.
The art of saying sorry and really meaning it in English.
Cool.
Think of it like a roadmap,
I like that.
to help you nail those tricky apologies.
Awesome.
We've got some really interesting material
Okay.
that we're going to use as our guide today.
Great.
It's all about helping English learners,
Yeah.
like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
master this super important part of communication.
Love it.
So our main goal today
Yeah.
is to give you the tools to go beyond just saying sorry.
Okay.
We really want to help you understand
Yeah.
how to show respect and take responsibility
Right.
when you mess up,
Totally makes sense.
And the article we've been looking at, it's
Yeah.
perfect for this.
Oh, good.
It's written specifically for English learners,
Uh-huh.
and it breaks down all the essential parts of a sincere apology.
That's great.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Why is it so important to apologize properly?
That's a great question.
Like, what difference does it really make?
Well, in English-speaking cultures,
Yeah.
a sincere apology, it really means a lot.
Okay.
It's one of the main ways we fix things when we mess up in our relationship.
Right, like smoothing things over.
Exactly.
Showing you care about the other person's feelings.
Exactly.
It's all about trying to mend things.
Yeah.
Yeah, the article really emphasizes that a good apology, it shows you're taking responsibility.
Absolutely.
You owning up to what happened.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful way to show empathy.
Yeah.
Letting the other person know.
Right.
You understand how your actions affected them.
Absolutely.
Now, the flip side of that
Okay.
is what happens when you don't apologize.
Right.
Or if your apology just doesn't quite cut it.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that happen.
The article points out that a bad apology, or no apology at all, can make you seem uncaring.
Oh, for sure.
Or dismissive,
Yeah.
even if you don't mean to be.
Totally.
And that can really create distance between people.
Absolutely.
Which is especially important for you listening.
Right.
Since you're probably building relationships.
Yeah.
And navigating English-speaking environments.
Makes sense.
So getting this right.
Yeah.
Is extra important, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely crucial.
So it's clear that simply saying sorry
Yeah.
it isn't always enough.
Right.
What actually makes an apology sincere.
Well, the interesting thing is, a truly heartfelt apology, it's not just one thing. It's like a few key elements.
I see.
All working together.
Okay.
And our article breaks these down into 5 essential ingredients.
Okay, I'm ready. What are they?
So first, you got to be clear about what you did wrong.
Okay.
Admit to your mistake specifically.
Got it.
Second, express genuine regret.
Okay.
Show that you really feel sorry for what happened.
That's
Third, and this is huge,
okay.
you have to take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
Don't try to blame anyone else.
Right. Own it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Fourth, if it's possible at all,
Yeah.
you should offer to fix the situation. Make things right.
Like make amends.
Exactly.
Okay.
And finally,
Yeah.
you need to show that you won't do it again.
Right.
Promise to learn from your mistake.
Okay, those all seem pretty fundamental.
Yeah, they are.
Like a recipe for fixing things.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's break them down one by one.
Sounds good.
Starting with the first step.
Okay.
Saying, I'm sorry.
Right.
But the article mentions different ways to do this, right?
Yeah, there are definitely variations.
Okay, so tell me about that.
So while I'm sorry is the most common and usually a good place to start.
Yeah.
There are some subtle differences like I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That often shows a stronger emotion.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah.
That tends to be more formal.
Right.
So it might be better for like work situations.
Right.
Or when you want to really emphasize,
Yeah.
that you understand you did something wrong.
Got it. And then there are phrases like, I feel terrible about this.
Right.
Which really highlights your regret. And please forgive me.
Yeah.
Which is a very direct way of asking to make things right.
Exactly. It sounds like choosing the right phrase.
Yeah.
It really depends on the situation,
Okay.
and how much you regret what happened.
I see. So it's about being thoughtful.
Yeah, exactly.
Which words to use.
Totally.
Now, something else the article mentions
Yeah.
is that your tone of voice matters just as much
Oh, absolutely.
as the words themselves.
Yeah.
You really need to sound soft and get
Yeah.
anything that sounds defensive or fake.
Right.
It's just going to undermine the whole apology.
I definitely.
That's such a crucial point.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say all the right words,
Uh-huh.
but if your tone doesn't match,
Yeah.
it's just not going to.
It's going to backfire for sure.
Okay, so let's look at an example.
Okay, sounds good.
The article talks about forgetting to call a friend.
Yeah.
How would you start an apology for that in English?
So the article suggests something like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry I didn't call you yesterday. I know I promised I would.
Okay.
It's direct. It acknowledges the broken promise, and it expresses regret right away.
Straight to the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a pretty straightforward one.
Uh-huh.
What about a situation that's a bit trickier,
Okay.
like accidentally spilling coffee on someone's work?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
How would you handle that?
I think in that case, a more formal approach might be better.
Okay.
So the article suggests something like, I apologize for spilling coffee on your work. I feel awful about it.
Okay.
It's clear about the mistake,
Right.
and it expresses sincere regret.
Got it. So that covers the first step.
Yeah.
What comes next?
So step 2
Okay.
is explaining the mistake.
Okay, so why is that important?
It shows the other person
Yeah.
that you really understand what you did wrong.
Right.
It's not just an automatic sorry.
I see.
And this is especially helpful for English learners
Yeah, I could see that.
because it shows you're not just trying to like brush it off.
Right, it shows real understanding.
Exactly. And the article has some good advice for this.
Okay, what's that?
Like using I statements to focus on what you did
Okay,
and keeping your sentences short and honest.
got it. So clarity is key.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's go back to that example of forgetting to call a friend.
Okay.
how would you add an explanation to that apology?
So you could say something like, I'm so sorry I didn't call you yesterday. I know I promised I would, and I forgot because I was really swamped with homework.
Okay, so you're giving a reason.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like you're making excuses.
Right, exactly.
Just a simple explanation.
Yeah.
Okay, and how about for the spilled coffee situation?
For that, the article suggests,
Yeah.
I apologize for spilling coffee on your work. I wasn't careful when I put my cup down.
Okay, so again, you're explaining the action
Yeah.
that led to the mistake.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that brings us to step 3.
Right.
Showing genuine regret.
Yeah.
We touched on this a bit earlier,
Uh-huh.
but how do you really get that feeling across?
Well, the article highlights using words like sorky, terrible, awful, upset.
Okay,
Words that communicate genuine remorse.
I see.
It also gives some common phrases.
Like what?
Like, I feel really bad about this. I didn't mean to hurt you.
Uh-huh.
It makes me sad that I upset you.
Okay, so these phrases,
Yeah.
they really add that emotional weight
Exactly.
to the apology.
It's not just about acknowledging what happened,
Right.
but showing you understand the emotional impact.
Right, both on you
Yeah.
and on the other person.
Ideally, yeah.
Okay, so let's weave that into our examples.
Okay.
For the missed call, how could you add that regret?
You could say, I'm so sorry I didn't call you yesterday. I know I promised I would, and I forgot because I was really swamped with homework. I feel terrible because I let you down.
Wow, you could really feel the sincerity there.
Yeah.
Okay, how about for the coffee incident?
You could say, I apologize for spilling coffee on your work. I wasn't careful when I put my cup down, and I feel awful that I ruined your papers.
I see, and adding that part about ruined your papers,
Uh-huh.
it shows you're thinking about the impact on the other person.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we're at step 4,
Right.
taking responsibility.
Yeah, this is a big one.
It seems really important,
It is.
especially avoiding the urge to make excuses.
Oh, absolutely. The article really emphasizes owning your mistake.
Uh-huh.
Even if other things played a part,
Yep.
you need to focus on your role in what happened.
Right.
Trying to shift the blame
Yeah.
just makes the apology feel insincere. Totally. The article gives a couple of examples of what not to do,
Okay, like what?
like saying, I'm sorry, but you should have reminded me, which immediately puts the responsibility on someone else.
Right.
Or, I didn't call because my phone died,
Yeah.
which just sounds like an excuse.
Right. Not taking ownership.
Exactly.
These are really helpful examples
Yeah,
of how just a small addition can totally change the tone.
totally.
So let's add this responsibility element
Okay.
to our scenario,
Sounds good.
starting with the forgotten call.
For that, you could add, it was my fault for not managing my time better.
Okay, so you're directly admitting
Yeah.
you messed up.
Uh-huh.
And how about the spilled coffee?
You could say, it was my mistake and I should have been more careful.
Okay, again, accepting responsibility
Exactly.
for your actions.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're at step 5,
Okay.
offering to make things right.
Right.
This is where you actually try to fix things.
Yeah, if you
If possible.
Right.
The article also mentions that for English learners,
Mhm.
this is a chance to practice using the future tense,
Oh, yeah, good point.
often with will.
Yeah.
So let's try it out.
Okay.
For the example of the forgotten call.
You could add, I'll call you tonight so we can finally have that chat.
Okay, so you're offering to follow through
Yeah.
on what you originally promised.
Right.
Okay, and for the coffee incident.
You could say, I can print new copies for you if you need them.
Okay, so offering a concrete solution
Yeah,
to fix the problem.
exactly.
Okay, so that brings us to the final step,
Step 6.
promising to do better in the future.
Yes.
This is all about rebuilding trust.
Yeah, for sure.
It shows you've actually learned from this
Yeah.
and that you won't make the same mistake again.
Exactly. The article lists some really useful phrases for this.
Oh, like what?
Like, I'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
Uh-huh.
I'll be more careful next time. I've learned my lesson.
Okay, so these phrases show commitment
Yeah.
to doing things differently next time.
Exactly. They give the other person reassurance
Right.
that you're taking it seriously.
Okay, so let's complete our apology examples with
Okay.
this last step.
Sounds good.
For the forgotten call.
You could finish with, and I'll make sure to keep my promises from now on.
Okay, so acknowledging the importance of promises.
Yeah.
And for the spilled coffee.
You could say, and I'll definitely be more careful with my drinks around other people's work in the future.
Okay, so being more mindful
Exactly.
of your surroundings.
Mhm.
It's amazing how breaking it down into these steps
Yeah.
makes it all seem so much clearer.
Right. It makes it feel manageable.
Yeah, less overwhelming.
Totally.
Now, the article actually gives 3 more scenarios
Oh, cool.
to practice with.
Awesome.
Let's run through those quickly.
Let's do it.
First one being late to a meeting.
Okay, so for that, you could say something like, I'm so sorry for being late to the meeting. I know it's not acceptable, and I realize it may have disrupted things for everyone. I feel terrible that I wasn't on time, and it was entirely my fault for not allowing enough travel time. I'll make sure to get any crucial information I missed, and I promise to be on time for all future meetings.
Okay, wow. That covers all the bases.
Yeah,
All the key elements we've talked about.
it does.
Okay, what about forgetting to bring homework to class?
Okay, so you could say, I apologize for not bringing my homework with me today. I completely forgot to pack it this morning, and I understand that it's my responsibility to be prepared. I feel bad that I didn't complete this task properly, and it was my oversight. I'll make sure to complete it tonight and bring it in tomorrow, and I'll double check my bag every morning from now on.
Okay, again, hitting all those essential points.
Yep.
And the last scenario,
Yeah.
interrupting someone while they're speaking.
Okay, so a good apology for that could be, I'm so sorry for interrupting you just now. I got a bit carried away and spoke over you, and I feel terrible because it was definitely rude. It was my mistake, and I didn't mean to cut you off or disrespect your point. I'll make a conscious effort to listen more patiently in our conversations going forward.
These examples are so practical.
Yeah, I think they're really helpful.
They show how to put those 6 steps into action in different situations.
Exactly.
Now, the article also talks about some common mistakes
Oh, right.
that English learners might make.
Yeah, it's good to be aware of those.
Definitely, even with the best intentions, there are pitfalls to watch out for.
Totally.
So what's the first one?
One common mistake is saying sorry too much.
Okay, I could see how that could happen.
Yeah, the article explains that overusing sorry can actually make your apologies sound less sincere.
Like you're just saying the word
Yeah.
without really meaning it.
Exactly.
Okay, so give me an example.
So a less effective apology would be something like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I forgot.
Okay.
But a much better way to say it would be, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll make sure to set a reminder next time.
Okay, so it's about quality over quantity.
Right.
It's not about how many times you say sorry.
Exactly.
It's about the sincerity
Yeah,
and the substance of the apology.
absolutely.
What's another common mistake?
Making excuses.
Right, which we talked about a bit earlier.
Yeah, when we discussed taking responsibility.
Yeah, the article really emphasizes this.
Uh-huh.
Making excuses just shifts the blame away from you
Exactly.
and weakens the whole apology.
For sure.
So can you give me an example of that?
Sure. So a not so good apology would be something like, I'm sorry I was late, but the traffic was terrible.
Uh-huh.
A much better approach would be, I'm sorry I was late. I should have left earlier to account for potential delays.
Okay, so you're acknowledging
Yeah,
that you could have done something differently to avoid the problem.
exactly. Taking ownership.
And finally, the article mentions being too casual,
Oh, yeah.
especially in serious situations, like saying something like, "Oop, my bad,"
Yeah.
after causing a big problem.
Not good.
It just doesn't convey the right level of seriousness.
Definitely not.
Do you have an example for that one?
Yeah, so a casual apology like, oops, sorry I broke your phone,
Uh-huh.
is not as good as saying something like, I am so sorry I broke your phone. I feel terrible about it. I'd really like to see how we can get it repaired or replaced for you.
Okay, so you're matching the tone
Yeah,
to the situation.
exactly.
Okay, so these are all really valuable things to keep in mind.
For sure.
Now, the article wraps up with some advice,
Okay,
specifically for English learners,
great.
kind of a recap and some extra tips.
That's awesome.
What are some of those?
Well, it really emphasizes practicing your tone of voice.
Okay.
Because how you say something is so important for conveying sincerity.
Right.
They even suggest recording yourself.
Well, that's a great idea,
Yeah, so you can hear how you sound.
because it's hard to be objective
Totally.
when it's your own voice.
Yeah, for sure.
What else?
They also suggest learning synonyms for
Oh.
words like sorry,
Uh-huh.
like regret, apologize, forgive.
Okay, so expanding your vocabulary
Exactly.
to add more depth to your apologies.
Right.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, I think it can be really helpful.
What else is in there?
They also recommend watching English language movies and TV shows.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, to see how native speakers apologize in different situations.
That's a fun way to learn.
Yeah, and you can pick up on the nonverbal cues too,
Right.
like body language and facial expressions.
That all adds to the message.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other tips?
The last one is about keeping it simple.
Okay.
A straightforward apology like, I'm sorry I made a mistake, I'll do my best to fix it,
Uh-huh.
can be super effective.
So don't overthink it.
Yeah, clarity and sincerity are what matters most.
Absolutely.
You don't need fancy words.
Okay, so we've covered so much today.
We have.
This has been a really interesting deep dive
It has.
into the art of the English apology.
Yeah, we talked about why it's important.
Uh-huh.
We went through a step-by-step guide.
Right.
And we even looked at some common mistakes.
We really unpacked the core elements
We did.
of a good apology.
Yeah, sticking closely to that framework from the article.
Exactly. And for you listening,
Yeah.
we hope this deep dive has given you some valuable tools
Uh-huh.
to use in your own life.
Right, because mastering apologies
Yeah.
is so important for building strong relationships.
It really is.
And communicating clearly and respectfully.
Absolutely. So here's a final thought to leave you with.
Okay,
Think back to a time when you needed to apologize,
okay.
or maybe a time when an apology would have been helpful.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about what we discussed today,
Uh-huh.
how would you approach that situation differently?
That's a great question to think about.
It's amazing how powerful a sincere apology can be.
It really is.
It can resolve conflicts
Yeah,
and build understanding.
for sure.
Thanks for joining us today.
It was fun.
It was great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
See you next time.
See you.
Bye.
All right, so we've gotten a bunch of stuff lately about food and mood.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's realizing there's a real connection between what we eat and how we feel.
Oh, absolutely.
Beyond, just like the good feeling you get from comfort food.
Totally.
More like, can your diet actually be this secret weapon for a happier you?
Right.
A more balanced you? Like, is that really a thing?
It is.
That's what we're going to deep dive into today.
Awesome.
We're going to pull out all that crucial science without getting, too bogged down in like lab coats and lectures and all that.
Okay. Well, I think
Yeah.
it's something that a lot of people have experienced. It's like you think about those days where you just feel fantastic and you've had a really great meal,
Yeah.
or like the opposite,
Oh, yeah.
the total slunk that hits
Oh,
after you have something that is way too heavy.
yeah.
And it's not just in your head.
Right.
There really is something going on there.
Okay.
There's this fascinating interplay happening
Okay.
with your brain chemistry and your energy levels and even how your body handles stress.
Wow.
And food is right there, like
Okay.
smack dab in the middle of it.
So it's not just like a feel-good thing. There's actually chemicals and stuff happen.
Yeah, there's these tiny little chemical messengers in your
Okay.
brain. And,
Oh, yeah.
serotonin, dopamine, endorphins.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of those.
Yeah, your internal happiness crew.
Okay.
And what you eat has like a direct line to them.
So we're talking about like the stuff we're actually putting in our bodies
Yes,
is affecting those things.
it is.
Okay, so we've got a ton of research that you all have sent in.
Right.
And our mission today is to cut through all of it
Yeah,
and pinpoint the real MVPs,
I like that.
the specific foods that can like demonstrably lift your mood
Yes.
and like dial down that whole
Uh-huh.
emotional roller coaster.
Absolutely.
We want to give you the practical knowledge, the stuff you can actually put on your plate
Right.
without needing,
A PhD.
a PhD in nutrition.
Exactly.
So with this, culinary quest for happiness in mind,
Yeah.
where do we even begin?
Well, I think a good place to start is with something that
Okay.
a lot of people already kind of associate with
Okay.
feeling good, which is dark chocolate.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Always a good place to start.
Your sources consistently pointed to it as like
Yeah.
a natural mood booster.
Okay.
And, it's not just because it tastes good.
Right.
It really does have some stuff going on.
Okay.
Dark chocolate is loaded with these compounds
Okay.
called flavonoids.
Flavonoids.
Flavonoids, yeah.
Okay.
And they have a really interesting impact.
Okay.
on how your brain works.
So it's not just a treat, it's actually got brain power behind it.
It does.
Okay, so flavonoids, what's the connection?
Well, what's really interesting is that flavonoids act like these little protectors for your brain cells.
Okay.
And they seem to improve blood flow up there.
Huh. Interesting.
Think of it like you're giving your brain
Yeah.
this little extra fuel and oxygen,
Wow.
which can really sharpen focus
Okay.
and elevate your mood.
Okay.
Beyond that, dark chocolate also contains the raw materials that your body uses
Okay.
to make serotonin,
Okay.
which is that key feel-good brain chemical we mentioned.
Right.
Plus, it has compounds that can trigger the release of endorphins.
Now, endorphins, those are
Yeah.
the like natural painkiller
Yes.
and happiness boost.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
So,
that's definitely encouraging news for anyone with a chocolate craving.
absolutely.
Now, switching gears a little bit
Okay.
to something you might find on your dinner plate.
Okay.
Fatty fish.
Yes.
Like salmon, tuna mackerel.
Yeah.
This kept coming up in the research.
Yeah.
What's so special about them?
Well, the real heroes in fatty fish
Mm-hmm.
are the omega-3 fatty acids,
Okay.
and particularly EPA and DHA.
Okay.
Now, these are essential fats.
Okay.
Your body can't make them on its own,
Right.
so you have to get them through your diet.
Mm.
And they are absolutely vital for keeping your brain healthy and happy.
So it's not just, like general brain health.
No.
There's a real mood connection.
There is a direct connection.
Okay.
Researchers have found a really strong link
Okay.
between getting enough EPA and DHA
Uh-huh.
and a reduction in feelings of both sadness and anxiety.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
Okay, so big picture, how are these omega-3s actually working?
Well, we zoom out
Yeah.
and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
These omega-3s are actually building blocks
Okay.
for your brain cells.
Wow.
They help those cells communicate better,
Uh-huh.
and they also have an anti-inflammatory effect in the brain,
Okay.
which is really important because we're finding more and more that
Yeah.
ongoing inflammation is implicated in various mood-related issues.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to something super accessible.
Love them.
I always thought of them for potassium,
Uh-huh.
especially after a workout.
Right.
But apparently they're mood hookers too.
They are.
Really?
What's key in bananas for mood
Okay.
is their tryptophan content.
Tryptophan.
Tryptophan. Yeah, it's an amino acid,
Okay.
a basic building block for proteins.
Uh-huh.
But it also happens to be a precursor to serotonin.
Okay, hold on. Break that down.
Okay.
What does that mean? Precursor to serotonin.
So when you eat a banana,
Okay.
your body can take that tryptophan
Uh-huh.
and use it to produce more
Okay.
of that feel-good brain messenger.
So it's like
Yes.
it's providing the raw materials. It's
Exactly.
a happiness.
I like that, yeah.
Okay, cool. Anything else in bananas?
Yes, they're also a good source of vitamin B6.
B6. Okay.
And this vitamin is like a crucial coworker
Okay.
in the brain's little neurotransmitter factory.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, it helps in the production of several key players, including serotonin,
Uh-huh.
dopamine, and GABA,
Okay.
all of which are involved in keeping our mood balanced.
Okay, so we've got dark chocolate for a
Yes.
quick endorphin lift.
Absolutely.
We've got fatty fish for those essential brain fats.
Mhm.
And then bananas for the building blocks of a good mood.
Yes.
What's next?
Let's talk about nuts and seeds.
Okay.
Almonds, walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds.
Mm-hmm.
These tiny things are nutritional powerhouses for your mood.
Okay, I'm listening.
They're another great source of those omega-3 fatty acids.
Right.
So we've already talked about.
We were just talking about those.
But they also provide significant amounts of magnesium and zinc.
Now, magnesium and zinc, I usually think of those as supplements.
Right.
What do they actually do for our mood when we get them from food?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Magnesium is involved in like a massive number
Okay.
of bodily functions,
Mm-hmm.
including keeping your brain working smoothly.
Okay.
It helps with nerve signals
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
regulating those mood-controlling neurotransmitters.
Okay.
Studies have linked getting enough magnesium
Okay.
to feeling less anxious
Mm-hmm.
and stress. Zinc, on the other hand,
Yeah.
is a helper in many important brain processes
Okay.
and has also been connected to mood balance.
Okay, so a handful of nuts isn't just like a good energy boost.
It's more than that.
It's also feeding your brain what it needs to
Yeah.
stay happy.
Exactly.
Okay, what about berries?
Oh, berries.
Those colorful little bursts of flavor?
Yes.
I always hear about their antioxidant superpowers.
Right, and that's exactly it. And
And-
berries, I think blueberries, strawberries, raspberries,
Mhm.
they're packed with antioxidants.
Okay.
Think of it this way.
Yeah.
Over time, your brain can experience
Mhm.
a bit of wear and tear,
Okay.
a kind of rusting
Okay.
called oxidative stress.
Huh.
And this can negatively impact mood.
So they're like little brain defenders.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
And it's not just the antioxidants.
Okay.
Berries also contain vitamin C,
Oh, right.
which is known to help your body
Yeah.
handle stress better
Mm-hmm.
and keeps your immune system strong,
Right.
which indirectly can contribute to a more positive mood.
Okay, so we've covered some delicious and easy options.
Yes.
Now let's dive into something a bit different.
Okay.
Fermented foods.
All right.
Yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut.
Yeah.
How do these tangibly affect our mood?
Well, this is where the fascinating link
Okay.
between your gut health
Okay.
and your mental well-being
Mm-hmm.
comes into play.
Okay.
Fermented foods are rich in probiotics,
Okay. Probiotic.
which are beneficial bacteria
Uh-huh.
that help keep your gut microbiome healthy and balanced.
Now, gut microbiome, that's
Right?
the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, it's like a whole community of microbes
Okay.
in your digestive system.
Okay, so what does that
Yeah.
have to do with how we feel emotionally?
Well, what's becoming increasingly clear
Yeah.
is that there's this really strong communication network
Okay.
between your gut and your brain,
Huh.
often called the gut-brain axis.
Gut-brain axis.
Think of your gut bacteria
Mm-hmm.
as tiny little chemical factories,
Okay.
constantly sending messages
Wow.
up to your brain.
That's kind of mind-blowing to
Yeah.
think about
Yeah,
that the bacteria in our stomach
Yeah.
have such a direct line to
Yeah.
our happiness.
yeah, they can influence the production of neurotransmitters,
Wow.
including a significant amount of serotonin and dopamine.
Really?
So by eating fermented foods
Mm-hmm.
and supporting a happy gut,
Okay.
you can indirectly support
Okay.
the production of these mood-regulating chemicals in your brain.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, leafy greens,
All right.
spinach, kale,
Love them.
Swiss chard.
Yep.
We know they're good for us.
Hmm.
But are they mood boosters too?
Absolutely they are.
Okay, how so?
Well, leafy greens are packed
Okay.
with essential nutrients.
Uh-huh.
And one that really stands out for mood
Yeah.
is folate,
Folate.
a type of B vitamin.
Oh, okay.
And folate plays a vital role in
Okay.
helping your brain produce dopamine and serotonin.
So is it bad if we're low on folate?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because studies have seen a connection
Mm-hmm.
between lower levels of folate
Yeah.
and a higher risk of experiencing direction.
Wow.
So making sure you're getting enough folate through foods like leafy greens
Mm-hmm.
is crucial for maintaining a stable and positive mood.
Okay, so eat your greens.
Eat your greens
For a happier brain.
for a happier brain.
Okay, what about eggs?
Eggs.
Eggs is staple.
Yeah, for so many people.
For so many people.
Yeah.
What about them?
Eggs are another nutritional powerhouse
Okay.
with some surprising benefits for our mood.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
They're a rich source of choline,
Choline.
which is essential for healthy brain function,
Mm-hmm.
particularly for things like memory and learning.
And the mood connection.
Right. Well, eggs also contain vitamin D,
Oh, vitamin D. Okay.
and we often think of vitamin D
Yeah.
as something we get from sunlight.
Right.
But it's also present in some foods.
Okay.
And interestingly, lower levels of vitamin D
Okay.
have been linked to poorer mood
Mhm.
and an increased risk of seasonal affective disorder.
Oh, wow.
So including eggs in your diet
Okay.
can contribute to your overall well-being,
Yeah,
especially during those darker months.
I can see that. Okay, so that's a good tip.
Yeah,
Especially for anyone who gets the winter blues.
absolutely.
Okay, let's talk sustained energy.
Right.
Oats and whole grains.
Yeah.
A cue of brown rice.
Yeah.
How do those play into the mood equation?
Well, the key here is how they affect
Okay.
your blood sugar levels
Mm-hmm.
and your overall energy supply.
Right.
Oats and whole grains are complex carbohydrates,
Okay.
meaning they break down more slowly in your body
Okay.
than refined sugars.
Uh-huh.
So this provides a steady release of glucose
Okay.
into your bloodstream,
Mm-hmm.
preventing those energy crashes.
Oh, yeah.
That can leave you feeling irritable and low.
Yeah, those are the worst.
Right.
So no more mid-afternoon slump.
Exactly.
Sabotaging our good vibes.
I love it.
Okay.
And what's more, these complex carbohydrates can also help boost serotonin production,
Okay.
leading to a more consistently positive mood throughout the day,
Nice.
rather than the spikes and crashes
Yeah.
with sugary foods.
Right. Okay. Stable mood through stable energy.
Exactly.
Okay. I like it. Makes sense. Okay. Now for a comforting warm drink,
Oh, yeah.
green tea.
Love it.
It's often associated with a sense of calm.
It is.
What's going on there?
Well, that calming effect
Yeah.
is largely thanks to the presence of theanine.
Okay. Theanine.
Yeah, a naturally occurring amino acid
Okay.
found in green tea.
Uh-huh.
What's really neat is that L-theanine
Yeah.
can promote relaxation and reduce feelings of stress
Mm-hmm.
without making you feel drowsy.
Oh, that's key.
So you get the benefit of a calm focus.
Yeah, you don't want to be like relaxed,
Right.
but totally out of it.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a good balance. Calm, but still alert.
Right.
Anything else in green tea that's
Yes.
helpful?
Just like many of the other plant bases we've been talking about.
Okay.
Green tea is also rich in antioxidants.
Right.
Which, as we talked about with berries,
Mm-hmm.
help protect your brain from oxidative stress.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
With these specific foods.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another creamy favorite, avocados.
Oh, good.
They're packed with healthy fats.
Yes.
But how do they influence our mood?
Well, avocados are this fantastic source
Okay.
of those healthy monounsaturated fats,
Mhm.
which are essential for overall brain health
Yeah.
and function.
Right.
They also provide a good amount of fiber,
Okay.
which helps regulate those blood sugar levels we were talking.
Right. Right.
And folate,
Folate again?
which we know it's important for mood regulation.
Yeah.
And they contain vitamin E,
Okay.
another powerful antioxidant that some studies have linked
Yeah.
to a reduction in symptoms of depression.
So it's kind of like a triple threat
Yeah, you could say that.
of mood boosting benefits.
Exactly.
Okay, let's add a little spice to the conversation.
Okay.
Literally.
All right.
Turmeric. It's been getting a lot of buzz lately
It has.
for its overall health benefits.
Right.
What about its impact on mood?
Well, the spotlight on turmeric
Mm-hmm.
is largely due to curcumin.
Curcumin. Okay.
It's an active compound,
Okay.
and curcumin is a potent
Okay.
anti-inflammatory
Uh-huh.
and antioxidant.
Okay.
What's particularly exciting for mood
Yeah.
is that curcumin has been shown to boost something
Oh.
called brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Yeah, or BDNF for short.
BDNF.
Much easier to say.
Okay, what is that?
What is BDNF?
Yeah.
Well, BDNF is like fertilizer
Okay.
for your brain cells.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a protein that supports their growth survival.
Uh-huh.
And overall function.
So we want a lot of that.
Yes, and interestingly,
Okay.
lower levels of BDNF have been linked to depression
Really?
and other mood disorders.
Wow.
So turmeric's ability to potentially increase BDNF
Okay.
could have significant mood-lifting effects
Okay.
and even improve cognitive function.
So that's pretty powerful stuff.
It is.
Coming from a common spice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some more budget-friend options.
Okay.
Beans and lentils.
Yes,
Are they mood allies as well?
they are.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, beans and lentils are excellent sources of fiber,
Right.
which, as we've discussed, helps keep blood sugar levels stable.
Stable blood sugar.
They're also packed with protein,
Okay.
which provides sustained energy and a good array of B vitamins.
Hey, vitamins again.
Right, they just keep popping up,
They really do.
don't they?
They seem to be key players.
They are.
In this whole mood regulation process.
Yeah, different B vitamins act as these essential helpers
Okay.
in the production of the neurotransmitters that regulate our mood and energy levels.
Okay, cool. So beans and lentils.
Yes,
Definitely going to add those to the list.
absolutely.
Okay, let's get a little sweeter again.
Okay.
Sweet potatoes, often seen as, a healthier alternative to regular potatoes.
Right.
What's their mood story?
Well, sweet potatoes are rich in beta-carotene,
Okay.
which your body converts to vitamin A, and they also contain a good amount of vitamin C.
Okay.
Both of these nutrients act as antioxidants,
Uh-huh.
helping to reduce stress
Okay.
and inflammation in the body, which can have a positive ripple effect on your mood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, the world's most popular pick-me-up,
Okay.
coffee.
Coffee.
We all know that caffeine jolt.
Oh, yeah.
But what's the real impact on mood in
Yeah.
the bigger picture?
Well, caffeine can certainly give your mood
Okay.
a temporary lift
Yeah.
by increasing the release of dopamine and serotonin.
So that's why people feel what the sense of happening.
Yeah.
More alert and even happier
Yes.
after that first cup.
Exactly.
But there's a caveat, right?
There is. It's not all good news.
It's not all good news. What's the
Downside.
Moderation is absolutely key.
Okay.
Too much caffeine can lead to anxiety,
Right.
jitters,
Yes.
and disrupted sleep,
Yeah.
which ultimately
Yeah.
could have a negative impact on your overall mood.
So while it's good in the short term,
Yes.
got to be mindful
Exactly.
of how much you're consuming.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we've got this amazing toolkit now
Right.
of mood-boosting foods.
Yeah.
But just knowing about them isn't enough.
It's not enough.
How do we actually weave these into our daily routine?
Yeah, that's the crucial next step.
Right.
It's about making small, sustainable changes. For breakfast,
Yeah.
a bowl of oatmeal,
Okay.
topped with berries, and a sprinkle of nuts
Yeah.
is a fantastic way
Okay.
to kickstart your day with a serotonin boost and sustain energy.
I like it.
Or a quick smoothie,
Okay.
blended with a banana,
Yeah.
some spinach yogurt, and flax seeds
Flax seeds? Okay.
is another great option
Okay.
to pack in multiple mood-supporting ingredients.
Okay. That sounds pretty easy.
Right.
What about snacks?
For snaps,
Yeah.
keep some dark chocolate squares, a
Yeah.
handful of mixed nuts,
Okay.
or a small container of Greek yogurt,
Yogurt again?
readily available
Okay.
for a quick mood pick-me-up.
Yeah.
Fresh fruit is always a winner
Right.
for a natural energy boost, too.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And when it comes to lunch and dinner, try to include fatty fish,
Okay.
like salmon,
Yeah.
a couple of times a week.
Oh, right.
Make whole grains like quinoa or brown rice your go-to thing.
Quinoa or brown rice. Okay.
And don't skimp on those leafy greens,
Right.
your salads, or as a side.
Okay.
A grain bowl packed with avocado,
Okay.
lentils, and a flavorful turmeric dressing
Turmeric dressing.
Right.
Okay.
is a great way to combine several of these mood-enhancing foods in one meal.
Okay, so we're getting a lot in at once.
You are.
And we can't forget about hydration.
You cannot forget about hydration.
Really important.
Super important.
What are some good tips for that?
Well, sip on green tea
Okay.
or calming herbal teas throughout the day. And of course,
Yeah.
staying properly hydrated with plain water
Right.
is fundamental for overall well-being,
Yeah.
which definitely impacts mood.
Okay.
And don't overlook
Yeah.
water-rich foods
Okay.
like cucumbers and watermelon
Oh, right.
as sneaky ways to stay hydrated, too.
I like that sneaky ways.
Yeah.
Okay, this all feels very doable.
It is.
It's not like
No.
huge changes.
No.
Now, your sources also briefly touched on other lifestyle habits.
Right.
How do those fit in with this whole
Yeah.
food-focused approach to boosting our mood?
Well, it's vital to remember
Yeah.
that what you eat is just one piece of a larger puzzle.
Okay.
Regular physical activity
Okay.
is a powerful mood elevator
Right.
because it triggers the release of those feel-good endorphins.
Those endorphins again?
Exactly.
Okay.
Aiming for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night.
Oh, yeah, sleep.
It's crucial for your
Wow.
mental and emotional health.
Right.
And don't underestimate the importance of stress management techniques
Okay.
like mindfulness or even just taking a few deep breaths
Yeah.
when you feel overwhelmed.
Those are good tips.
And finally, nurturing your social connections
Yeah.
and spending time with people you care about
Yeah.
can significantly boost your overall happiness.
So it really is a holistic approach. It's
Yeah.
not just what you eating.
It's like-
It's moving your body, prioritizing rest,
Yes.
managing stress effectively, connecting with others.
It all works together
It all works together.
to support our emotional well-being.
Right. And all of those things are already
Yeah,
things we should be doing anyway.
absolutely.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
It has.
It's truly incredible to see
Yeah.
the direct influence our food choices can have on something
Yeah.
as personal and important as our mood.
As our mood.
So-
It really is. And
Yeah.
the wonderful thing is that by consciously incorporating these foods into your diet, you're not just potentially improving your mood.
Right.
You're also nourishing your body and brain
Yeah.
in countless other beneficial ways,
Right.
which builds long-term emotional resilience
Okay.
and enhances your overall sense of well-being.
So as you
Okay, so we've got this comprehensive guide for English learners, and it's all about describing people's appearance.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, I think even if you're not someone who's actively learning English, this is going to be a pretty fun deep dive because, we all describe people all the time.
Oh, absolutely. And just thinking about it more consciously can really make you notice things you might not have before.
Yeah, and like this guide actually points out a bunch of situations where this is super useful. Like, obviously, if you're trying to tell a friend about someone new you met, right?
Yeah.
Or like, imagine you're trying to find someone in a crowd and you're on the phone with them. Like, what are you wearing?
Oh, I've totally been there.
Right? Or if you write like stories or anything creative, character descriptions, even just talking about like celebrities or people in books and movies.
It really makes the conversation so much more vivid when you can paint a good picture with your words.
Right. And this guide like helpfully breaks it all down into these sections, starting with the big picture and then getting into the details.
Yeah, which is a pretty logical way to go about it.
So first up, it's general appearance, right? Like the first things you notice about someone.
Makes sense.
And that includes their height, build, age, and like your overall impression of them.
Okay.
So starting with height, you got your basic terms: tall, short, average, medium height.
Right. Pretty straightforward.
But what I like is that they give examples that add a little more context.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
So instead of just saying like, my brother is tall, they say my brother is tall and he stands out in a crowd.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So you immediately get a sense of how his height makes him noticeable.
Exactly. Or she's quite short, so she prefers wearing heels.
Okay. So now it's not just her height, but it tells you something about maybe her style choices or like how she feels about it.
Right. And then for average height, they say he's of average height, about 5'10".
Okay. So a little bit precise there.
Yeah, and the guide also mentions this cool tip for English learners, which is that you can use adverbs to make your descriptions even more precise.
Like what kind of adverbs?
So very, quite, and fairly. Like there's a difference between saying she's tall and she's very tall.
Oh, definitely. It has nuance, right?
Exactly. Okay, so moving on to build, which is like body shape, right? This is all about describing if someone is slim or muscular or, maybe carries more weight.
Gotcha.
And I find it interesting how they have some slightly different words for slimness, like slim and slender both describe someone thin, but slender has more of a like graceful, elegant vibe,
Interesting.
Then you have average, which is just neutral.
Okay.
And then when you get to describing someone heavier, they list chubby, overweight, and fat.
Okay, but fat can be a little tricky, right?
Totally. The guide even mentions that fat could be kind of harsh in English-speaking cultures, and often softer terms are preferred.
Yeah, it's important to be sensitive to that.
And then to describe a more athletic build, they say muscular and stocky.
So what's the difference there?
Stocky is often someone strong, but also like shorter and broader,
I see.
And the examples are helpful for her too. So my cousin is slim and loves running every day. Gives you a reason why she might be slim.
Yeah.
He's muscular because he works out at the gym. Again, explains the build. And she's a bit chubby, but she has a warm smile.
Oh, I like that.
It kind of softens it, right?
Yeah, it adds that human element and prevents the description from being purely physical.
Totally. Okay, next up, age. And this is usually a general thing, right? Like, we're not talking about guessing someone's exact age.
Right, just a broad category.
Yeah, so they suggest like young for people under 30, which can include children and teenagers, depending on the context.
Okay.
Then middle-aged, which is generally considered to be between 30 and 50. And old or elderly for people over like 60 or 70.
Makes sense.
And of course, you have teenage for those like 13 to 19 years.
Right.
And they give examples for these two. The teacher's middle-aged and very energetic.
Oh, so it tells you something about her demeanor as well.
Yeah, exactly. And my neighbor is an elderly man with white hair, kind of connects age with a common physical trait.
Right.
And she's a young woman, probably in her 20s, is an example of being more specific, but still approximate.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay, last thing in this general overview is overall impression. Like those adjectives that immediately give you a sense of someone's looks.
So like attractive, handsome, pretty, things like that.
Exactly. And it's interesting how these words all have slightly different nuances.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like handsome, we usually use for them, and it implies they're like strong and appealing. Pretty is often used for women and can suggest more like delicate features.
Okay.
Beautiful is almost like a more intense version of pretty, like really striking.
Makes sense.
And cute usually implies a kind of adorableness.
Yeah, often associated with youthfulness or small features.
Right. And the examples they give are really helpful here too. Like, he's a handsome guy with a friendly personality.
So it links his looks to his character.
Exactly. She's pretty and always dresses stylishly, connects her appearance with how she presents herself.
Interesting.
And I mean, who can't picture the baby is so cute with his chubby cheeks?
Aww.
Okay, so that's the big picture stuff. Now we're going to zoom in a bit, starting with the face.
Okay, the face.
Which the guy calls like the most memorable part of how someone looks. And I think that's true. Like when you picture someone.
Their face is what you see.
Yeah, and they break it down into these different elements. Face shape, eyes, nose, mouth, and lips. And then other distinctive features.
Makes sense. So let's start with face shape.
Okay, they basically describe four main shapes. Oval, which is longer than it is wide, with a kind of rounded jawline.
Okay, oval.
Round, where the face is like almost as wide as it is long.
Round.
Square faces have a broad forehead and a strong jaw. And heart-shaped faces are wider at the forehead and cheeks, and then narrow down to a point at the chin.
Got it.
And again, the examples are super helpful. She has an oval face and long hair. You can like picture it, right?
Yeah, you can almost see those soft curves.
And his square face makes him look very masculine.
Well, yeah, that strong jawline contributes to that impression.
Okay, next up, eyes, which they very poetically call the windows to the soul.
Very poetic.
We're talking about color, like blue, brown, green, hazel, gray, black. Then size big, small, medium. And shape almond-shaped, round, narrow, wide set, which means they're further apart, and close set, meaning they're closer together.
Okay, so a lot to consider there.
And the examples here are really good, like her blue eyes sparkle when she laughs.
Oh, I love that. It adds so much emotion to the description.
Right. He has small brown eyes and wears glasses.
Gives you those specific visual details.
And she's got almond-shaped green eyes that stand out.
So that's a distinctive feature.
Exactly. And then we can't forget the details around the eyes, right? Eyebrows, which can be thick, thin, or arched, and eyelashes, which can be long, short, or even curly.
Right.
So for example, his thick eyebrows make him look serious.
Interesting how a physical trait can influence how we perceive someone's personality.
Totally. Or she has long eyelashes that frame her eyes beautifully.
Yeah, it draws attention to the eyes.
Okay, now let's talk about the nose.
The nose.
They describe noses by their size, like small or big, and their shape, like straight hooked, which means it curves downwards, and button, which is small and round.
Okay.
So they give an example. He has a big nose that suits his strong face.
So even a feature that some might see as prominent can actually work well with someone's overall look.
Exactly. And then her button nose makes her look younger.
Another case of a specific feature being linked to a certain perception.
Okay, moving on to the mouth and lips.
Okay, the mouth.
Described by their width, like wide or small, and fullness, whether they have full lips or thin lips.
Gotcha.
So they say she has a wide mouth and a big smile. Like, you can almost see her face. Right?
Yeah, very expressive.
And his thin lips disappear when he's serious.
Interesting how a physical trait can be linked to a temporary expression.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, for facial features, we have those little extras that can really add to a description. Things like cheeks, chin, jaw, freckles, wrinkles.
Right.
So for cheeks, you have high cheekbones, tubby cheeks, rosy cheeks. For the chin and jaw, you have strong jawline, pointed chin, or even double chin.
I see.
And then you can mention things like freckles and wrinkles.
Those little details can make a big difference.
Yeah, totally. So for example, her high cheekbones make her look elegant.
Oh, that's a great description.
He has a strong jaw and a serious expression. Again, linking the physical with an impression.
Right.
And then even just something simple like she has freckles across her nose.
Or he's got wrinkles around his eyes.
Yeah, it just adds these humanizing details.
Absolutely. It makes the description more specific and relatable.
Okay, so we've covered the general overview and really zoomed in on the face. Now we're moving on to hair.
Okay, hair, a key feature, right?
Oh yeah, the guide makes that point that hair is like super noticeable.
Makes sense. It can completely change someone's appearance.
So they break hair down by length, color, texture, and style.
Okay.
Starting with length, you got your basic short, which is generally above the shoulders, medium, around shoulder length, long, below the shoulders. And of course, bald.
Right, the classics.
They give examples like she has long hair that reaches her waist.
Okay.
And he's bald but has a thick beard.
Oh, good point. Even if someone doesn't have hair on their head, facial hair can be a big part of their look.
Totally. Then we have color. Blonde, brown, which has variations like light brown, dark brown, chestnut brown, black, red, which can be bright red or auburn, and gray or white.
Lots of options there.
Yeah, they say, for example, her blonde hair shines in the sunlight.
Oh, that's pretty.
He's got dark brown hair and matching eyes.
A nice harmonious combination.
Right. And then texture. Straight hair is like flat and smooth, wavy hair, has those gentle curves. Curly hair could be tight spirals or looser curls. And then there's frizzy hair.
I see.
So, for example, he has wavy hair that falls over her shoulders.
You get that sense of movement.
Right. His curly hair bounces when he walks.
Adds a dynamic element.
And lastly, for hair, we have style, which is just how someone arranges their hair.
Okay.
Ponytail, bun, braids, even just messy hair.
Right.
So she always wears her hair in a neat bun, might suggest something about her personality, like maybe she's organized or likes things a certain way.
Yeah, or maybe she just finds it practical.
And his messy hair gives him a relaxed look.
Makes you think he's pretty laid back.
Exactly. Okay, up next is skin tone and complexion.
Okay, skin tone.
And the guide explains that these things add another layer of detail when you're describing someone.
Makes sense.
So skin tone is like the basic color of someone's skin.
Right.
They have pale, which is very light, fair, which is still light but has a bit more color, olive, which has that warmer, slightly golden undertone, tan, which suggests they've been out in the sun, and dark.
I see.
So, for example, they say she has pale skin that burns easily in the sun, which is like practical information, right?
Definitely.
He's got a tan complexion from working outside, links his skin tone to what he does.
Right.
Complexion, on the other hand, is about the overall condition of someone's skin.
Okay, so the difference there is?
Skin tone is about color. Complexion is more about, like, texture and if there are any blemishes.
Okay, I got it.
So they describe smooth skin as even and soft, rough skin, which might be bumpy or uneven, clear skin, meaning it has no blemishes, and a complexion with acne, meaning it has spots or pimples.
I see, yeah.
Her smooth complexion makes her look youthful.
Oh, connecting it to her perceived age.
Yeah, and he has rough skin from years of hard work, connects it to his life.
I see.
Now, although clothing and accessories aren't like part of your physical body the way hair or eyes are, the guide does touch on them because
They contribute so much to how someone looks.
totally. What someone wears can tell you a lot about their style, the occasion, even hints about their personality.
Yeah, definitely.
They give examples like casual clothing, jeans, t-shirts, sneakers, formal suits, dresses, ties, and the idea of someone being trendy.
Okay.
They also mention specific accessories like glasses. She wears round glasses and jewelry. He has a silver necklace.
Okay.
So she's trendy and wears bright scarves. Makes you think she's fashionable, maybe even bold.
Yeah, definitely.
He looks formal in his black suit. Gives you a sense of the context.
It all adds to the picture.
Okay, so we've gone through all these individual elements of describing someone's appearance.
Right.
And now the guide gives us 2 full examples of descriptions, which I think is super helpful.
Oh, yeah, because it shows how all these pieces come together.
Exactly. So the first one is of a young woman. They say, my friend Sarah is a young woman in her 20s. She's of average height and has a slender build. Her oval face is framed by long, wavy brown hair that she often wears in a ponytail. She has big blue eyes with long eyelashes, a small button nose, and full lips. Her fair skin is smooth, and she usually dresses casually in jeans and colorful tops.
Wow, that's a very detailed description. You can really picture Sarah clearly.
Right, like you get her age, body type, facial features, hair, even her usual clothing style.
Yeah, very complete.
And the second example is of an older man. My neighbor, Mr. Jones, is an elderly man, probably in his 70s. He's short and stocky with a round face and a strong jaw. He's bald, but he has thick gray eyebrows and small brown eyes. His nose is hooked and his lips are thin. His tan skin is wrinkled, especially around his eyes. He often wears glasses and a simple jacket.
Again, very detailed. And it's interesting how they included details that are often associated with age, like the wrinkles and the gray eyebrows.
Yeah, it really completes the picture of him being an older man.
Definitely.
Okay, and then the guide wrapped up with some tips specifically for English learners.
Oh, that's great.
But honestly, I think anyone can benefit from these tips.
What are they?
The first one is to just practice using adjectives. Like start with the basic ones and then gradually try to use more specific ones.
Yeah, build up that vocabulary.
Then they suggest using comparisons. So instead of just saying someone is tall, you could say she's as tall as her brother or he's shorter than me.
Oh, that's a good way to give people a quick reference point.
Right. Then they emphasize being polite.
Of course.
Especially when you're describing physical characteristics, like being careful about your word choice and avoiding anything that could be hurtful.
Yeah, that's crucial.
And then their last tip is to listen and imitate.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like, pay attention to how people are described in movies, TV shows, podcasts, even just everyday conversations. And then try using those same kinds of descriptions yourself.
Yeah, immersing yourself in the language like that is a great way to learn.
Okay, so to kind of sum up this whole deep dive, it really comes down to, careful observation and having the words to express what you see.
Yeah, exactly. We started with the big picture, went into the specifics of facial features, hair, skin tone, even clothing.
Hopefully this has given you a good framework for thinking about descriptions and a bunch of useful vocabulary.
I think so.
And as a final thought for you, the listener, I challenge you to really start paying attention to the people around you and try to describe them, even just mentally.
That's a good exercise.
Yeah, notice the little things like the shape of their eyebrows, the way their hair falls, the details of their clothes. And think about how those subtle things might give you clues about their personality or their experiences. You might be wrong, of course.
Right, of course.
But I think just getting into the habit of noticing these things will not only make you better at describing people, but it'll also make you more aware of the incredible diversity of human appearance.
That's a great point. I'm definitely going to try that.
Yeah, me too. So all that stuff you sent us about how to build a good work ethic?
Right. That's some pretty fundamental stuff.
It is. It's like when you think about it, a strong work ethic is what really drives us, to reach our goals.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit. From what we've seen in the materials, work ethic is really the belief that, hard work, discipline, responsibility, those are the keys to success.
Yeah.
But it's more than just, putting in the hours, right? It's also about being smart with how we work and sticking with it even when things get tough.
Yeah, for sure. It's that commitment to putting in the effort, that consistent effort, and really sticking with it. And, as you're navigating the world and learning English at the same time, building a strong work ethic can be so empowering. It can make a real difference in how you study, how you approach your career, and just in your life in general.
Exactly. So today we want to explore that idea in depth. We want to really define what a strong work ethic looks like, why it's so important, and most importantly, maybe pull out some practical things, some steps that our listeners can start using right away.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. Let's start by digging a little deeper into what we even mean by work ethic.
Right, so we're expanding on that basic definition. The materials describe work ethic as this set of values and habits that shape how you approach any kind of work, really. It's those everyday actions like showing up on time and finishing what you start.
Yeah, it's not just about checking things off a list. It's about the care and attention you bring to your work. Are you just doing the bare minimum, or are you really invested in producing quality work? That motivation that comes from within, that's a big part of a strong work ethic.
That's a really good point. And I think it also involves that persistence, that refusal to give up when you hit a roadblock, or when you're just not feeling it.
That's so important, that resilience. The materials give us a great example with Maria. Remember, she's learning English. Her commitment to studying every day, the way she asks for help when she struggles, even her dedication to honesty in her studies, all of that points to a strong work ethic. What stood out to you about her example?
What stands out to me is that it really shows work ethic isn't just this vague idea. It's it's visible in the choices we make each day. And it all leads back to reaching your goals, whether it's passing that English test, getting that job you want, or even chasing a personal passion.
You got it. That's the core reason why it's so important to cultivate a strong work ethic. So let's get into the nuts and bolts, the actual benefits of having this kind of drive and commitment.
Okay, so the materials highlight that showing a strong work ethic helps you stand out from the crowd. It's something that people notice, and it really helps build trust and respect, whether it's in your personal life or your career.
It's fascinating how universally valued this is. Let's look at some specific areas where it makes a real difference. Let's start with school.
Okay, in school, that internal drive translates into completing your assignments, studying for tests, really engaging in class, paying attention, absorbing the material. It might seem simple, but over time, it has a huge impact on how well you understand the material and ultimately your grades.
Right. And for those learning English, the material really stresses how important daily practice is. You got to practice speaking, writing. It's that regular engagement, even if it's just for a little bit each day, that builds up your skills over time.
We have a great example here with Ahmed, who moved to the U.S. from Egypt. At first, understanding what was being taught in class was really tough because of the language barrier.
Yeah, and what's really inspiring about Ahmed is he didn't let that challenge stop him. He really immersed himself in the language, spent extra time reading, watching English TV shows and movies, looking for chances to speak. And his teacher saw incredible progress in a pretty short time. That's a perfect example of work ethic helping to overcome a really tough obstacle.
It really is. Okay, let's shift gears and talk about the workplace. What does an employer look for when they're assessing someone's work ethic?
Well, employers put a high value on a few key things. First off, punctuality, being on time, consistently ready to work when you're supposed to. Second, completing your tasks reliably and to a high standard. You're not just getting things done, you're doing them well. And third, having a positive attitude even when things get crazy.
Those all make a lot of sense from an employer's point of view. And the material also points out a pretty big benefit. Consistently showing a strong work ethic can lead to promotions and raises.
Definitely. When you consistently demonstrate your value through your dedication and how you work, employers are more likely to invest in you and your growth within the company. And the story of Sophia, she was new to the country and to her job at a busy restaurant. She was also learning English at the same time.
Oh yeah, tell us more about Sophia. Her story was really interesting.
So even though she was still getting used to everything and probably dealing with communication challenges, when the restaurant got super busy one day, Sophia volunteered to stay and help out, even with tasks that weren't her responsibility. And her manager saw that willingness to go the extra mile and rewarded her with more hours. It's a great example of how a strong work ethic can shine even when you're still working on your language skills.
That's a really encouraging example. So we've talked about work ethic in school and at work. What about how it affects our lives more broadly?
In life, a strong work ethic gives you the skills to tackle problems head-on and to keep chasing your dreams even when it's hard. It builds those essential qualities like patience and resilience. And like the material says, becoming fluent in English is a long-term goal. It takes constant effort and dedication.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, for sure. Juan's story really illustrates this point. He had to overcome some serious financial challenges, but he worked part-time while studying hard for years to become a doctor.
Juan's journey is so inspiring. It shows that work ethic isn't always about quick wins. It's often about consistent effort over a long period of time, dealing with obstacles, and resisting the urge to give up when progress is slow or things get really tough. His success is a testament to that long-term commitment.
Okay, so we have a good grasp on what work ethic is and why it's so important. Now let's get to the practical stuff. How do we actually build and strengthen our own work ethic? The material outlines 10 specific steps. Let's dive in.
This is where we put it all into practice. These steps provide a concrete plan for intentionally building these incredibly valuable habits.
Step 1, set clear goals. The more specific you are about what you want to achieve, the easier it is to focus your energy and efforts.
Exactly. So instead of a general goal like, I want to improve my English, a clear goal would be something like Lizen's goal. She said, I'm going to study grammar for 30 minutes every day, and I'll read one English news article each day. That's a specific target. It's like a roadmap for action. What do you think makes a goal truly effective?
I think the key is breaking it down into smaller steps that feel doable so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And step 2 builds on that. Make a plan. This is about creating a strategy, a structured approach to reach those goals.
Take Carlos, for example. He wanted to improve his English speaking skills. He didn't just wish for it to happen. He made a weekly schedule with specific activities like practicing conversation with a friend for an hour, watching an English movie, and reading out loud for 20 minutes. That kind of structured approach makes it much more likely that you'll consistently practice and ultimately succeed.
Step 3 is to start small. It can be tempting to try to change everything at once, but it's easier to build momentum if you start with small, achievable steps.
Amina's experience is a great example of this. She was shy about speaking English at first, so she started with simple greetings, then slowly worked her way up to asking basic questions. It's about creating positive experiences early on to build your confidence and reduce anxiety.
Step 4 is all about consistency. Regularly putting in the effort, even if it's just for short periods, is way more effective than doing a lot of work every once in a while.
Like Raj, he committed to studying new vocabulary for just 15 minutes each day. It's not a huge time commitment, but the effect of that daily practice over time is significant. What are some ways someone learning English can build that consistency into their routine?
I think connecting it to a habit you already have, like studying right after breakfast, can be helpful. Step 5 is to stay positive. You're going to run into setbacks and challenges, so keeping a positive attitude is so important for bouncing back and staying motivated.
Alina's reaction when she got her essay back with corrections is a great example. She didn't get discouraged by the feedback. Instead, she saw it as a chance to learn and improve her writing. That's a crucial mindset shift for long-term progress and resilience.
Step 6 stresses managing your time wisely. Be mindful of how you spend your time and prioritize the tasks that contribute to your goals.
Hassan made a conscious choice to balance his fun stuff like playing video games with time dedicated to practicing English. That shows the importance of intentional time management. It's about making choices about how you spend your time that align with your goals.
Step 7 is about taking responsibility, owning your actions, both the good and the bad, and learning from them.
May's story about forgetting her homework highlights this. She didn't make excuses or blame others. She admitted her mistake and figured out how to fix it. That sense of accountability is a major part of a strong work ethic.
Step 8 reminds us to push through even when things get hard, boring, or we just don't feel like it. That's where real grit comes in.
Remember Omar? He decided to go to his English class even though he was tired and not really feeling it. That's commitment, pushing through those tough moments. Those are often the times when we build the most resilience and actually make the most progress.
Step 9 is a good reminder that it's okay and often really helpful to ask for help when you're struggling or feeling stuck. It's a sign of being proactive, not weak.
Exactly. Priya took the initiative to ask her teacher to clarify a grammar point she didn't understand. Recognizing what you don't know and taking steps to learn is a really smart strategy.
And finally, step 10, celebrate your wins. Recognizing and appreciating your accomplishments, even the small ones, helps keep you motivated and reinforces good habits.
Coffee had a little celebration after passing his English speaking test. It shows how important it is to acknowledge and reward your hard work. It creates a positive feedback loop and encourages you to keep going.
Those are such useful steps. The material also talks about common roadblocks people hit when trying to build a stronger work ethic and ways to overcome them.
It's important to remember that building a strong work ethic isn't always easy. There will be challenges and times when you feel discouraged.
The first challenge is feeling tired and low on energy. That's common when you're pushing yourself. The advice is to take breaks and make sure you're getting enough sleep.
Sarah was feeling drained after long study sessions, so she started taking regular breaks and make sure she got enough sleep. This shows how even small adjustments can make a big difference in your energy levels and ability to keep working.
The second challenge is the inevitable dip in motivation. We all have those days when we just don't feel like it. The key is to remind yourself why you set your goals in the first place and track your progress so you can see how far you've come.
Diego would remind himself of his goals for learning English and look back at his progress in his language journal whenever he felt like giving up. That's such a powerful way to reignite your motivation, seeing how much you've already achieved.
Challenge number 3, distractions. In our digital world, they're everywhere. The advice is simple. Minimize those distractions and create a focused environment for work.
Yuna has a simple but effective strategy. She puts her phone in another room while she's studying. That's a practical way to reduce distractions, improve concentration, and have more productive study sessions.
The last challenge is the fear of failure. This could be a huge obstacle, especially when you're trying something new and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. The trick is to see failure not as an endpoint, but as a chance to learn.
Kimba's scared to speak English because she didn't want to make mistakes. Her teacher reminded her that mistakes are a natural part of learning. It's about developing a growth mindset and seeing mistakes as valuable feedback.
Now, to really bring this to life, the material shares some truly inspiring stories of people who showed incredible determination and perseverance in the face of some tough challenges.
These are real-life examples of the principles we've been talking about, and they show what's possible when you combine clear goals with hard work.
First, we have Anna's journey. She went from being a cleaner with limited English to becoming a registered nurse in Canada. That's amazing.
Anna's story is incredible. She balanced a demanding job with her commitment to learning English. She set small, achievable goals for herself, asked for help from her colleagues, took English classes, and pushed through exhaustion and moments of doubt for 2 years. What parts of Anna's story do you find most inspiring?
I think it's her sheer determination over such a long period while juggling so much. Then there's Tarek, who came to the UK from Syria. He had limited English, but a dream of opening his own bakery.
Tarek took a job washing dishes to save money, and he practices English by talking to customers and studying English recipes. He learned from his mistakes and kept working hard despite long hours and setbacks. His success in opening his own bakery is a true testament to his resilience and dedication.
And finally, Lynn's story from Vietnam. She studied for a tough English proficiency exam on her own with limited resources because she wanted to study in Australia.
Lynn showed so much resourcefulness and self-discipline. She made her own study plan, used free online resources, practiced all aspects of the English language, and asked friends for feedback to improve her speaking. She didn't give up even when her practice test scores were low. And in the end, she got a scholarship. These stories really highlight that inner drive, don't they?
They do. They show that so much is possible when you combine clear goals with hard work. Now, specifically for you as someone learning English, the material has some really practical advice for strengthening your work ethic in this area.
These tips are designed to help you leverage your language learning experience to strengthen your work ethic overall and make faster progress.
The first tip is simple practice every day. Even short focused sessions can make a big difference over time, both in improving your language skills and in building that habit of consistency.
Right, that regular practice reinforces your learning and establishes a routine, which is so important for building a strong work ethic in any area of your life.
Next tip, use simple resources. You don't have to jump into complex materials right away. Start with things that you understand and build from there.
Starting with easier materials builds confidence and makes the process less intimidating. That encourages you to keep going and prevents you from getting discouraged.
Tip number 3, speak up. It might feel scary at first, but actually using the language, even if you make mistakes, is the key to improvement.
It's important to overcome that fear and look for opportunities to practice speaking. Even if your English isn't perfect, it helps you become more fluent and builds resilience for dealing with communication challenges.
Tip number 4, track your progress. Keeping track of what you've learned and how far you've come can be really motivating, and especially when progress feels slow.
Writing down what you're learning, whether it's new vocabulary or sentences you can understand and use, provides real evidence of your effort and encourages you to keep going.
And the final tip for English learners, be patient. Learning a language takes time, and progress isn't always a straight line. Having a strong work ethic in this context means not getting discouraged by plateaus and setbacks.
Exactly. It's a long process, and the key is to keep at it, even when progress feels slow.
So to sum it up, building a strong work ethic isn't about a quick fix or a sudden change. It's a continuous process that takes time, effort, and consistently applying these principles. But as we've seen, the rewards in terms of achieving your goals, whether it's fluency and English success in your career or just living a more fulfilling life, are huge and well worth the effort.
I totally agree. And for you, as someone who's committed to learning English, cultivating this kind of dedication and discipline will not only help you master the language, but also equip you with valuable skills and habits that will benefit you in every aspect of your life.
We encourage you to take some time to think about these steps and see if you can start incorporating 1 or 2 into your daily routine. Even small changes can make a big difference.
And that leads us to a final thought for you to ponder. What goal that seems impossible right now, something you might think is out of reach, could you potentially achieve if you started applying these principles of a strong work ethic? Even if you start with just one small, consistent step today, what's that first action you could take?